I suck at Jiu Jitsu. How do I suck less at Jiu Jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
Ladies and gentlemen, the diabolical leader of the Headlock Squad.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 203 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. So, new intro, right? This episode is coming out on a Tuesday. I finished the intro on Monday. That rule, I think it's called Parkinson's Law, that a task will swell to the size of the time that you have allotted for it. Man, that was true on the new intro. You know, I started making the new intro like 5 months ago with this idea. I really liked the announcer saying "diabolical coach of the Head Nod Squad." I really enjoyed that. I wanted to throw that in. A few other interview little clips, some hidden Easter eggs in that intro, but I just didn't have it perfect. And then I would mess with it, then I would give up for a while, and I would come back to it. But it's as close to perfect as it will ever be. And now we have a new intro and new thumbnails. No longer me just taking pictures of my hand with permanent marker written on it saying what episode this is, and new and really, really good interviews. And so that is what I have for you guys today. We're back to Tuesday interviews, and this is, to me, one of the best ways we could start it. I think that this is another one of those episodes that shows why I wanted to move to doing an interview show and are just doing that every single week, because I think I have so many friends that they're just so interesting to talk to, even if it's not specifically about jiu-jitsu learning, which we keep the once a week Thursday episode all about jiu-jitsu learning. But these interviews are just so much fun. They're so much fun to do. And I think you can get different things out of them because you can get perspectives. And I think this is a perfect example that no matter what, I just cannot have and I cannot understand fully. And so you get perspectives from different people on different things that really matter. And I think that this is one of those things. This is one of those episodes. I will say now, just like I said in the description, just like I'll probably say on the Facebook and Instagram post, bit of an explicit warning. My friends Dan and Nick, they tend... of course, they are professionals when they need to be, but I kind of told them, hey, I would rather just have the real and unfiltered guys that I enjoy hanging out with. And that's kind of what we went with. And it's not an apology in any way, just a warning of like, hey, if this offends you, if you're easily offended, maybe don't listen to this episode. But here is the thing. If you are easily offended, and you choose to listen to it, I really think you should listen to it all the way through, because I really think that it will give you some context on why it's silly that you're offended by certain things. And I think that these guys do just a really good job of expressing that and explaining that. And they also share some stories that are just that are unbelievable. And so for me, I just really think that this is no doubt a top 5 episode for me, interview that I've done so far, but man, it really could take the cake. It's pretty good. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And last little bit, I know that we do have a lot of people who served that listen to the podcast. I get messages, and people will tell me, give me some context of who they are. And so I know it is normal for a lot of people who served to listen to the podcast, and I know I did not serve. And so, like I said, there are certain perspectives that I just can't comprehend and I can't understand. And so this to me was kind of my thank you to you guys is bringing on two just really, really cool military guys that are really good jiu-jitsu guys too, really good people, and then saying, hey, let all my military homies know that you can be yourself. and still be in the jiu-jitsu culture and still be great in the jiu-jitsu world. And so hopefully you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed doing the episode. And so without further ado, let's start this interview with Nick Sanders and Dan Shucart. All right. How are you guys doing today?
Good, man.
Good, man.
Good being here with you guys, man.
All right. I thought I would pretty much let this conversation go where it wanted to, but I had a fun place to start. And it'll be two stories, two individual stories, and I think I've told them on the podcast, both of them, but from my perspective. And I kind of got to have the coach's perspective in both of these stories. And so I figure we can kind of start with you, Nick, and we'll look at, since you're a podcast alum, since you've been here before, well, not here, but you've been on the podcast before. I thought we would start with you. Let's talk about, I think it's 2021 Pans.
I think it was 2022.
Was it 22? Okay.
No. Did I do Pans last year? Yeah, I think it was 2022. Yeah, 2022.
2022. Okay.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, I fly in 4 days late to Pans because I was in Vegas. I got stuck in Vegas.
I remember that.
Yeah. So and I ended up flying into St. Louis and then driving to Orlando.
Wild.
But I got to hang out with you for the day, and it really was a good situation. And so from your perspective, let's just look at that Pans and just kind of talk about, you had been competing and doing really well up until this point, right?
Right.
But you made a weight class change at Pans. You hadn't been competing at Ultra as much, right?
No, I think I had only done Ultra one other time, and that was at Nogi Pans the year prior, and which sucks because, man, fighting Ultra heavies is horrible. It's the worst thing ever. But I think I was just tired of cutting the weight, and then you and Eric Hubner, Eric Hubner was sending me text messages like, "Bro, you're gonna kick ass at, man. Like, think about you at 245, just smashing these guys." And I got hyped up. I'm like, "Yeah,
you're gonna win.
I'm gonna kick ass." And then I get down there and I fight the Terminator first round.
First round, and I'm there, and I'm like, okay, Nick's gonna win a Pan championship here. I'm here until this dude wins his championship, and then if he's here for the open class, I'm here, And so I'm standing there waiting for that first match, and I see whatever his name is, Captain Brazil, come in just like, holy smokes. Like, oh, they have a super soldier program too.
He had all the bomba.
And oh my gosh. And I remember in that match, as we talked about it, there was a point where he had you dead to rights.
Dead to rights.
He really did.
Oh, yeah.
On that, he had a knee cut. Nick, did you ever see this match?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if I've seen this or not.
It's when I tore my groin.
Oh, yeah, I do remember. Yeah,
in the match.
Yeah.
And it was in that scramble too, right?
It was started right before that. So I've got a pretty good close guard, and I had him in close guard. I'm like, okay, I'm going through my strategy because we had talked about it before, like dragging the arm across. Like, okay, yeah, that's good for these ultra heavies because they're slow. This guy wasn't slow.
He was not slow. It was like the whole game plan that we had built around you're fighting big guys.
Yeah.
He was a lean meat
He
fighter.
he was like 250, 260, just ripped.
That's
12 pack.
That's dangerous.
It was bad.
And it was
a
just so
dangerous
surprising.
motherfucker.
You have a high seed, and this dude's bringing it.
Which is wild because apparently this guy's like a Brazilian national champion. He took second at the Worlds the year prior. He lost to Bruno Bastos. So I watched his match. I'm like, it was the only thing I could find on him. Diego Sandoval's his name. Remember that name? Many of you guys do. Like, Master 2, ultra heavy. That guy's a killer. But I was surprised, that he was seated so low. And I was like, man, this guy's this should have been the finals match. And so I pull guard. I'm in close guard, and immediately he stands up and just pushes on I think it was my left knee, and I just felt the pop. I was like, oh shit, there goes my groin.
Yep.
And I was like, okay,
To start the day.
Yeah. So
Right way.
I'm like, fuck, okay. Very like first 30 seconds maybe. And I'm stuck in like a half guard kind of thing. and he hits that monster knee cut. The only thing that was saving me was that little pant grip. And he cleared both of my legs.
No,
Had an underhook.
Had an
I
underhook.
don't remember
Everything, bro. It was a rough go. The first minute was me just being like, oh shit, my groin's destroyed, and I have this gorilla on me. And I was thinking to myself, well, like, he hasn't passed yet. So I'm like, all right, I'm safe. I'm good. Like, if I could just get my knee back in front.
Yep.
So then I recovered guard, and then I think I hit a 50-50 sweep on him.
Yep.
And then it was just off to the races. I kept him on his back and was passing side to side, and then we got like a little scramble. Stood back up, he pulled hard again, and I just was like, not today, bro.
Yep.
It was like everything I could. I beat him by 2.
Fuck yeah.
Beat him by 2. It was 2-0.
And from there, immediately I knew that, like,
I was
okay.
hurting.
And you can always tell that with guys you coach a lot. You're like, okay, he got the job done, but he looks, something's up, right? And so I can kind of see, I think something's going on. I think this dude's struggling right now.
I was hurting.
And then I
can
walk
only
over,
imagine. I remember
and you're
this.
like, hey, I tore my groin. And I go, oh, okay. And I'm like, hey, go walk up and just sit where the bags are. Sit for a second, cool down. And you did. And I walked up the stairs, and I remember going, so how are you feeling? You're like, it hurts. And I go, okay. I go, like, are you going to compete? You're like, of course. I go, okay. So I go, are you willing to die for this one? And he goes, yeah.
100%.
And I go, okay.
Fuck yeah.
I go, then I think we're going to win it. I go, let's go. I go, what guards can you play? You're like, oh, I can't play this. I go, I really think that close guard, 2-on-1 drag across is the game plan then.
Yeah.
And that worked. That was smooth sailing the rest of the day.
So
man.
so I had 3 more matches after that. The second guy, like, I went close guard, and he was pushed on my leg. I was like, oh shit. So like I went to half, swept him, I beat the shit out of him. And then the semifinals match, same thing, close guard, and I hit just a really simple, like, 2-on-1 little kick sweep, arm triangle him. And then in the finals, thank God, you told me, he's like, hey, this guy Thiago, fucking monster. He's also like 5-time Brazilian national champ, world champ, all that stuff. You're like, hey, I saw him pulling guard. And he's about 280, 290. Big boy, tall, huge. De La X is the way he likes to play. I was like, thank God, because I don't think I could pull guard on this guy. He pulled, and man, I passed into an armbar.
I think you got smashed half, right? Is
Yeah,
that where
I was. He was deep half. I was smashed. That's my favorite guard to pass. And right as he's trying to do like a little sit up Bernardo Frejia sweep, I go back for an armbar, and he falls. And then we had no scramble and make him turtle. I think we stayed in turtle for like 4 minutes.
Oh, no shit.
And I just kept him there. That was my strategy. I was like, well, I can't really like take the back. I can't, like, because my legs are all fucked
trying
up.
to hold anything.
So I'm like, all right, new strategy. Just keep them in turtle, and just like keep on knocking them over and trying to like keep them in turtle, because ultra heavies, they'll stay in turtle. And once you, like, that was the strategy.
Yeah.
Like, if you pass, they'll stay in turtle to either try to get up or try to like that shitty roll. So like, no, man, not today. So I just kept them there, and I won my third Pan Am's, 3 different weight classes.
And I wish I'm sure somebody does from Revive have a video that is close enough to hear my commentary, because I think I had all of Revive counting down from second 120. I had the team going nuts. I'm like, count them
If
down.
you watch Flow, you could see Josh banging the bear. He's like,
Dude, he gets hyped.
oh,
man.
yeah. And I hear Josh perfectly whenever he coaches me, like crisp. That's why I like when you coach me, because I can hear, and he gives me
You
intelligence.
both have that. That
I
very
was gonna say, I
crisp,
hear Nick the
concise,
exact
like-
same
I
way.
think it's just like years of coaching. You know, like Kyle Watson's really good. Junior, when he's yelling at you to, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Like, I know, I hear that played as day.
100%.
Yeah, I know. I can pick out his voice.
Oh,
No, you do
always.
not let him do that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Junior. Sorry, Coach. Sorry, Coach. You're right. Like, and the funny thing is, though, it's like, it's not what you yell, it's when you yell it and who you yell it to.
Yeah.
Because he'll say that to me at the right time, and I'll go, whoa, I am letting him do that. Nah, you're going back down, buddy.
Yeah.
I was letting you.
Yeah.
He's right.
He's
No,
he's
he
really
does.
smart
He is.
about that. He's really
100%.
smart. He knows how to coach individual athletes.
He
Like,
really does,
He's really
man.
good.
Especially the preparation. And because you guys have talked about that before, his ability to get you, he knows each person and the things either to fucking tell him he's going to fucking kill you or whatever it is, the broad spectrum, or he can be super chill and like he knows each individual and how to get them
He
ready.
does.
He's good at that.
and that's a
shit,
sign
man.
of a good coach.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
100%.
like really, I was talking to my buddy Chris on the podcast, and he was talking about where the word coach came from. And it came from this town where they were basically building stage coaches, right? And the idea is it was to get you from one place to another. And a coach may not be the best instructor, but a lot of times you don't need to be.
Right.
A lot of times they can just say, hey, this is the task you need to accomplish.
That's right.
I'm going to make sure that you get the right people around you. I'm going to make sure that you get the right reps to accomplish this task over and over. And then when we go to compete, you're going to be able to beat people.
Yeah, and just having a good strategy, like good game plan. Like you tell me, hey, this guy's going to pull. Changed our game plan completely. I'm like right there and then I'm like, okay, my coach told me, hey, I saw this guy pull. So now I have to change. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep it on the feet. He was pulling De La Hiva, one of my favorite guards to pass. And it changed my game plan. So if you have a good coach helping you out with your strategy, you don't need to tell me, hey, do this technique. It's just like, hey, this is what they're going to do, or this is what you should do. And that's a sign of a good coach too. Because you put all the time in on the mats in the gym. It's like, you already know your games. Like, hey, I'm going to get you to your game against this one opponent.
It's to me, a good coach is the same thing as being a good leader. Whatever it is, to me, that for the most part, I believe you're born with that ability to be a good, true coach or a good leader. Obviously, it can be learned, but like you guys are saying, it's the motivation, the talk, the knowing your individuals and who you're training. To me, that's something you're born with. There's some people that have it and some people that don't. You can be a good instructor and not be a good coach.
For sure. For sure.
I think too, I think so many matches we could refer back to, but that is perfect segue to what we were going to talk about for you to kind of introduce you, Dan, is it's Indianapolis Open, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so we're at the Indianapolis Open. Start this story from in your division, you get second.
Yeah.
And then I'm injured at Indianapolis, and I am not going to get to compete. And I'm like, dang it, man, I've got to have to go out and like, I've got to just coach all day. This is going to be boring. And I'm like, we only have 50 competitors. There are teams with 80 and 90, 100 competitors, and they're good teams with those. Like, there's no way we can win. And I was like, but what if we could win the team trophy?
yeah.
And so I come in and I walk up to Junior because I'm like, if we're going to win the team trophy, he's also not competing. He's just there to coach. Like, if we're going to win the team trophy, I need captain motivation
He's gotta
to
be there. He's
get
gotta
on.
be a part of that,
And so I walk up, I go, Junior, we're winning the team trophy today. And he looks at me and he goes, can we? And I go, I don't know, Junior, can we? And he's like, yeah, we can.
Fuck yeah.
And so he starts making everybody do their open class. So you get second.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to do your open class.
No, I was being a bitch.
You
man.
don't
I did
feel
not
like
wanna
doing
do
it.
at all. I was being such a little bitch about it.
But
Yep, 100%.
dude, I can't motivate people to do their open classes.
Junior can.
Even guys that tell me, like, hey, I'm going to try to talk myself out of it. Please make me do it. I struggle to get that guy to do it, right? Junior will make somebody who has dinner reservations do the open class. And, if not, he'll sign you up for the open class. They'll
I've seen
call
him,
your
yeah.
name. They'll call your name and you'll go, wait, what? And he'll go, just go tell the ring coordinator, like just go walk up to the ring coordinator and say, hey, I'm this name.
Like, okay,
Just
you're
go
up.
tell them, and they'll
That's right.
know. They're like,
right.
oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
And so
He lives in his world, man.
bro. And
Yeah,
so that's where this story starts. Is we're needing points.
Yeah.
You're doing your open
That's right.
class.
It's happening.
Junior's like, hey, Dan listens to your podcast. You can motivate him. You can get him to do the open class. You tell him he can win this open class. He's like, he's got the guy that beat him first round.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, Junior. How did he beat him? He's like, oh, I don't remember. He's like, we've coached 100 matches. I'm like, okay, we really have. But I'm like, okay, so I'll just go talk to him. So we just go talk. We talk about, I don't know, just talk about going out there fighting this guy.
Just
Like,
don't be a bitch.
yeah,
Go
just
fucking do
go.
it.
Just
That's
go.
it.
Bring it.
Just go do
We
it.
need the
Yeah.
points. Let's go beat this guy.
Yeah.
Who cares? Let's go eat dinner after this. Let's beat the guy. And he goes, and there's this point in this match where you're down 2.
No, I think I'm down by like 1 advantage.
Down by
and if he would have, his coaching, I've watched it a couple times after because we'll get to that part. But the excitement once that all happens is one of my favorite moments. But if his coach would have just said, hold on, he could have won. But his coach was pushing him to pass. And that's when I went into that dogfight. But yeah, man, it started out well. What happened? I got him down, and then he somehow got we got into half guard. We got to the edge of the mat. He ended up getting into half guard, and he brought that leg up and swept
I remember.
me. Yeah, and I remember in that moment thinking, motherfucker.
I
it was
lost.
going
No.
so well.
Yeah.
And he was a tough son of a bitch, man. He was a really tough, and I thought, I'm fucked here now. Like, this is over. And so he's on top for a majority of the time. He gets up. He ends up being up by that one. I want to say it was 1 or 2 advantage points. And he's coming around, and he goes to take. We go into Turtle. He goes to take my back. I'm able to get out and get to half guard, and he is just continually trying to pass and putting on pressure. And finally, with like 20 seconds left, I was able to get his lapel down in between his legs, and I grab it, and I come up into the dogfight. And it ended up being like 15 seconds left. I fucking swept, and there was no technique there. That was like I was just fucking grinding as hard as I could to get him down.
I had a conversation with Dan mid-match. Dan, listen to me. Listen. And like, he's like acknowledging. I'm like, okay, I got to think of something to say. I'm like, you can get up here. And I'm hitting people in the arms going, get loud.
Yeah.
You can get up here. You just come up, get your head higher, get your head. And then when you start to get your head higher, we went nuts.
Man.
But then the funny thing is, that was the semifinal.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Didn't you like almost kill a guy in the finals?
Well, so that's what it ended up getting to. So I ended up winning that match with, 15 seconds left. And I just have to say, you're specifically hearing you going nuts. And then in the video, seeing you slapping the thing, that truly was one of my favorite moments that I personally have had in a tournament, man. It was cool as shit, especially beating that dude that just beat me and beating him the way that we did. But that was incredible. But yeah, so we went into the finals match. I was tired as fuck, and it was against an ultra heavy. And I was talking to Kyle and Josh, and we were trying to think of what I was going to do, and I was like, man, I think I'm just going to collar drag this motherfucker.
He goes collar drag, and Kyle looks. He goes, should I do a collar drag? And Kyle goes, and then he looks at me like, have you trained with Dan before? Does he have a good collar drag? And all I said was, Dan, if you collar drag him, right, you throw him through the stands.
That's right.
I go, you throw him as hard as you can. I go, but first you push. You push, and then you throw him as hard as you can. And he said, yes, sir.
I don't even remember saying that, but I love that's what I said.
I'm like, okay.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
And boy, did that match start.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I collar dragged the fuck out of him.
Here's the bad part, though. He collar dragged him from the middle of the mat out of bounds.
Yeah,
and
straight out of bounds.
He didn't get points.
Nothing.
He only didn't get anything for it. It was like,
it was
and
bullshit.
he looked up at me. I saw his face. He looked up at me like, what the heck? Like, what is wrong with jiu-jitsu? And all I think of is like that Kurt Russell scene where he's making the dude in the movie Miracle shoot over and over, and he's like, again. And I just go, do it again, Dan.
That's right.
And he grabs the collar, and Big Boy sits down.
Oh, yeah.
He immediately fucking sit down. He was like, nope, not doing that again.
And what's funny is, like, about him sitting down, he got thrown so hard that he sat down. He didn't have a guard
at all.
Like, he literally, Dan,
right by
Dan,
that shit.
wow. Dan, like,
gone.
just put him in mount and submitted him.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
I ended up that's where I popped at his elbow out of place, or so. I don't know if it was his elbow or his shoulder, but the motherfucker wouldn't tap.
Hey, man.
And so I
That's
kept
his
going,
fault.
and the ref even said afterwards, the guy tried to do like one of those shallow taps, so
Brazil
he could
tap?
act like
The Brazil
so he could
tap.
act like he didn't, and I kept going, and all of a sudden I heard pop, and it was fucking.
That's his own fault.
And,
That's his own
I
fault.
felt bad about it.
Was that
That's your
Master
fault, bro.
Two?
Master 2, yeah.
Bro, you're a 36-year-old man.
bro.
You know better.
I
than
mean,
this.
by the
Just
end of
tap.
it, his knuckles were going backward. Like they were coming down towards his hip, and he wasn't tapping.
Especially like in a bad position
Yeah,
too.
dude.
Like I get
Just
fighting an extra second if you hit me with an Americana when I'm on top in side control.
Right.
I like, dude, I get you let your shoulder
Yeah.
got messed up. You had no idea
But
that
I'm
that
winning.
was gonna
That's
work,
right.
right?
I'm winning,
Yeah,
yeah.
you fought through it.
Yeah.
But dude, you're down points.
Mounted.
You're mounted. You just pulled guard. Like,
Yeah.
Just tap.
I'm giving that up.
Well,
Yeah,
and then
it's
you
not
pulled
worth
guard
it.
and you just got passed with ease.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
clearly you're not coming out from this.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good day, man. That
So,
was a good day.
oh, that was a good day. We ended up getting second.
yeah.
We ended up
Team
getting
trophy
second. We didn't have any white
That
belts
was the
on day
problem.
2.
That was the
Literally, we
problem.
had none.
Because we were in the lead.
We had
right?
like we were up like 120
significant
points.
lead, yeah.
And then there was even like a text message that went out that was like, "Congratulations, guys." We're like, "No.
No, not yet.
Hey, guys,
Yeah.
we have nobody tomorrow. We just have to go and watch and see if anybody."
Hope the points
and we
don't get
and we
racked up.
watched the points diminish.
yeah.
But it was a
Hey,
good
still
day.
got second though, man.
It
Yeah,
was
it was a damn
Yeah,
good
like 50
day.
competitors. That's
Yeah.
not bad. Second place.
I mean, I don't think we should be too proud. You know, I think we can take it easy. You know,
Hey, man, it was still a
we
fun day.
did
all right?
our best.
Yeah.
Okay, but it wasn't good enough, and I think we should acknowledge that.
It was still a fun day. All right.
I suppose it would have been a fun day too if we would have hoisted the team
Yeah,
trophy with
oh,
50
100%.
competitors
That would
over
be
our
awesome.
head.
Yeah. That'd be
Junior just immediately
You know
started
why?
blaming and berating people right
did.
after
You know
that.
why?
100%.
It's because Bryce didn't do the open.
Fucking Bryce.
Fucking
Did you do the open, Bryce?
I didn't even place.
Well, it's because Bryce didn't place and then didn't win the open.
Motherfucker.
fucking Bryce.
It's all your fault.
Glad you're back there, buddy. How are you doing? How are things going back there?
That's what I'm talking
I took away his mic. He had a mic for a little bit,
okay.
but it's gone now. I had to use it for me.
yeah,
so,
for sure, for sure.
yeah,
Gotta go.
eventually he'll have a mic again, and you guys will get to hear what he says in response to us bashing him. But it's not much. You know?
Yeah, he's a one-word man.
He's like, okay. He said we were recording an instructional yesterday, and then we were talking about it later. And I said something about like Richie was my uke, and I'm like, yeah. Like I was being really kind to Richie, but I was talking about how great his guard was and then passing it on the instructional, right? And Bryce goes, yeah, you were being so nice to him. You dog me when I'm the uke. He goes, but you're being so nice to him, and then occasionally you would point over to the producing section and start to make fun of me. He's like, I'm just like sitting
get
here.
away from
Yeah,
it.
he's like, I'm producing the pod. I'm not even the uke, and I'm the butt of the jokes. And I'm like, man, that is messed
But
up,
like
dude.
we talked about the camps, like Bryce, you know, that's how every blue belt is. And then eventually you're going to have your own Bryce, and you get to make fun of him when you're a black
Yeah,
belt.
I was Kyle's Bryce.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was way tougher. So, you know, there was a little more respect, but I was, you know.
Yeah, you always have that one blue belt.
It's
that's just
you.
that
Well,
guy.
you have the blue belt that takes the beating, and you have 15 other blue belts that would kill for that spot.
They would, yeah.
You know,
That is
they
a
like, dude. Bryce gets to hang out with these guys.
There's a
you
bunch
know?
of people that wish they could be you. I can
Yeah,
name a few.
That's a fact.
I know a few. We trained with one of them yesterday. Or Friday, I should say, yeah.
Okay, guys. So, give me a hot take here on something. I'm sure that you guys have a lot of different topics that you have that we might talk about, but just something as somebody who his whole life has been a civvy, but also in the jiu-jitsu community, is there something that is different for you guys that have served that I wouldn't expect know about, or just anything like that?
See, like, so I got into jiu-jitsu God dang, 17 years ago or something like that. Man, I don't even know how long ago now. Forever ago. And so my experience is a little different from Dan's, because you got out and you were looking for like camaraderie
I
and stuff.
needed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
needed
was
that.
struggling. Yeah.
So like with me, I wanted to fight.
Hey
Like,
guys, stop making eye contact and talking.
Oh, sorry.
well, like I wanted to fight. Like that was like I wanted to still fight, and then I by happenstance I found camaraderie. I didn't know that's what I was needing, but like on my end, I got Purple Heart from Iraq, PTSD, all that stuff, and like this was before like We Defy and all these organizations that help veterans with coping with PTSD. And so just by chance, I found what I needed to be who I am today. If I didn't have jiu-jitsu, I'd be like we were talking about it last night. I'd be a big piece of shit. I'd be an alcoholic or fat or whatever, or like just lifting weights in the gym and doing steroids. Who knows? but
that's a good alternative.
That's my fallback, dude.
It is my fallback. When I hit 50 and I can't train as hard anymore, it's all gym. But yeah, like. So I found that by just happenstance, and I think like my generation, I was Iraqi Freedom 2, so I was there in 04, 05. So it was just like a year and a half after the invasion of Afghanistan, and a little less than a year after the invasion of Iraq. So like my cohort of guys that got into jiu-jitsu after they got out around the same time I did, I think we just fell into that and then created We Defies and all those other organizations. So just by luck, jiu-jitsu gave me that. Just luck, because I wanted to fight MMA. I was like, dude, I gotta do something with myself. I'm still like, an infantry guy, like full of piss and vinegar, 22 years old. I'm like, man, I'm gonna go punch people in the face.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. And then I got into jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, man, fuck getting punched in the face. Like, I'm just gonna train jiu-jitsu way better. And then I got what I needed to like heal the wounds and everything like that. And then Dan, I know you came like 3 years ago.
Yeah. I've been doing it for I think like 3.5 years now. And for me, so my experience was a little different. And I was in the Army and then got out in 08 and then contracted that entire time. So that's all I did for 15 years of my life. That's the life I led. I had that camaraderie all the time. I had that a particular life that's much different than this life. Mm-hmm. And I honestly didn't know I needed it either. But I was struggling real bad. I got back for the last time in 2019, and I was just, finding that purpose, having, people around you that you can count on. There's just not a lot of good people in this world, in my opinion.
There's not. Yeah.
And so having that, I just and having something that I was proud of, you know what I mean, that I felt like was something that was worthwhile. So it was actually my son who I got into it first. And
because of Bone Break.
Because of Bone Break,
Jake Bone Break?
I do. Yeah, super good dude. He's a good friend of mine. We were actually in Afghanistan together, and he lives around this area. And he told me about Nick and that Revive was opening up, and so I took Johnny in there, and then from there I was like, well, dude, this is something I've always, because with the military, jiu-jitsu is always a thing. It's part of our combatives and all that. It's not a big thing, but it's part of it. So it's always something I've been interested in, and I started it, and man, it truly, I hate being that guy, but it has saved me mentally, man. It's something that I really needed. In my opinion, when it comes to camaraderie and bringing people together, nothing brings people together more than a common struggle. And that's why guys in the military are so close and can become so close. And same thing in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you're all going through that. You're individually fighting and you're individually doing your thing, but you're all sucking together, man. Like you're getting your ass kicked together. You're doing your thing. And that's something that brings people together that normal civilian life can't do for you. And so I love it, man. It's been something that now it's a necessity. I couldn't live without jiu-jitsu.
And you always in jiu-jitsu, there's always the Matt Green who we're going to all talk about behind his back.
That's right.
Hey, how can we take this guy down?
That's exactly
We all want it. We all want to. How are we going to do it?
Problem solving.
And we're like, well, and it's like, we're all doing that together because none of us can take him down. It's really frustrating. You know what I mean? And we're really, it's a common struggle. We're all like, dude, we've got to get together. We got to beat this guy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or like when juniors got telling Devin Parada, like, hey, man, there's this black belt coming to my gym on Friday. We're going to kill him. And Devin's like, yeah. Who's going to be there? He's like, yeah, I'll have the juniors.
I'll bring the
whole
crew.
Yeah. He's like, I'll have Kyle Watson. I have Josh McKinney, Nick Sanders. And he's naming everybody. I'll be there. He's like, you guys got to bring the heat, though. He's like, we got to kill this guy. And he goes, okay, who's the black belt? He goes, Josh McKinney. Like, what are you talking about? I told you. And that same day, Devin broke his thumb bow and arrow choking me.
Oh, yeah.
That was the vibe, right?
It's bringing the
It's
heat.
the common struggle.
Yeah,
They're like,
that's
okay,
right.
we're going to kill this guy today.
Oh, yeah.
And he killed me. I threw up after he broke his thumb.
That was at the Old Revive, right?
That was at the Old Revive.
remember
Great
that.
memories.
And
Hell
you
yeah,
hear
man.
Junior the whole time.
Don't give up.
Kill him, choke him.
Put him away.
That's the shit that makes jiu-jitsu so awesome. As much as to most people that sounds insane, that's what makes jiu-jitsu so fucking
Particular breed of
badass,
people.
man. It is.
It really is. And it like, especially to train in TAC Team St. Louis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty
And
rough
not
crew.
just that, but
Yeah,
like
it is.
like tag team St. Louis, like on the competition side.
Yeah.
So we got our students.
TAC Team Midwest on the competition
Yeah.
side. And
Dude.
everybody, it's just so interesting how many people compete on the team.
Yeah.
You know? And how, I don't know, just, it was a lot of, I feel like a lot of Ronins kind of all with big teams
Yeah.
all getting together
Coming
at the
together,
same time
yeah.
and then going, well, what works for you guys?
Yeah.
What works for you guys? Oh, cool. We'll do all these things.
Yeah.
You know? And I just really see that and go, whoa, we've really got a tough team now.
We do, and it's weird. It's like other teams I've been on. I would say like 5% of people competed. But I feel like at our gym, we got a ton. Your gym,
Bro.
you got
Oh
a
my
ton of
gosh.
people. Granite City is just it's a different breed here. Like
Yeah.
they fight. It's just like
They
it's
just fight.
it's like waking
dude.
up on a Tuesday. Going to
That
a
is
tournament.
what
It's like
you
whatever,
do,
bro. It's
man.
like
It's-
get up, fight somebody.
Yeah, like, oh, you want to go to a park today? Like, no, dude, I don't want to get hurt. You know? What are you talking about? Like, that would be, that's suicide. What are you talking
On a
about?
bike
dude?
ride. No, dude, I'm going to fight somebody. Somebody's trying to steal my bike, and I'm going to fight him.
So, speaking of Granite City craziness, this is 4 or 5 days ago. So, this is regular Granite City life. But I've never seen this happen in person. I'm driving down the street that is closest to behind your guys' back right now. So the next street over, driving that way, go down like 3 blocks. There is a car ahead of me about a block, maybe a block and a half, and it's going the same way I'm going. And then there's a car like three blocks away that's kind of swerving and kind of looking weird, and it's coming towards us. And as it's getting closer, I'm going, whoa, this car looks like it got beat up on GTA 4. Like I'm seeing this and this car's going wild and it's going really fast. And then it purposely tries to hit the other car, the car in front of me head on.
shit.
The
Oh
car
my God.
cuts left. This dude hits a telephone pole. He hits it so hard. It's not like it hits and there is a pause before this thing breaks. He goes through.
Oh, he was
wow.
flying.
So he was going, yeah.
flying, dude.
Holy shit.
Kicks it in reverse.
And he survived?
Listen,
Wow.
kicks it in reverse. He was in a huge car. He's in like a big SUV.
Holy shit.
Kicks it in reverse, starts is spinning his tires in reverse. I'm watching this unfold. It's 4 seconds this happens. It's so fast. I'm watching this unfold, like sipping my coffee, listening to John Mayer cover Free Falling live. And I'm like, I think something crazy is happening in front of me. I should leave. And so I have like a turn that I can make. I make the turn quick and I'm gone. I'm going to pick up sushi. I get there
Just
and
picking
I'm
up
like
sushi.
trying to calm down. And I'm like, hey, I should probably call the police. And as I think that, there are police driving by me. I'm like, okay.
Somebody's got it
I'm
covered.
like, okay, we're good. We're good. I guess it's just a normal day in Granite
So
City.
like
another
Joe
Tuesday.
Kelso and I were talking about this last night. Shout out to Joe Kelso.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, always.
So he's a South City kid just like me.
Uh-huh.
Granite City is the closest thing to South City that
Exists.
anywhere else.
If
Yeah,
you
like-
threw some farms in South City, it's
yeah,
Granite.
yeah, literally, if you knock down a couple city blocks, put some farms in there,
Maybe
it's-
make a few more white people, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. You get on South Broadway, it's predominantly white
Yeah.
meth heads.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, man, Granite, growing up tough like that, it just, I don't. It's just a different environment, It's like it just grow up tough and
What else is there to do?
it's like fight, literally, you said, go into the park, whatever. You knew, okay, a couple things can happen. I'll go there, nothing, or I'll go there and there's another group of kids and we're gonna throw down.
Yeah,
like
it's like,
just
why,
how it is.
why are we doing this? What is this about? Why is this what we do? Man, some of my students have thousands of fight
Yeah.
stories
Oh,
in
yeah.
Granite, just like because I didn't go to Granite City High School, but went to the Granite City Public School.
What were you saying the other day? They had some big festival here. It's like, they just talk about they're just a fight.
I won't go names, but this is a great story. One of my students at a big event. Got in a fight with this kid and beat him up. And then like the event's like an all night thing, and then his dad showed up, and then his dad fought him.
Oh, I know
and
this
then
story.
he
Now,
beat
I've
up
heard
his
this,
dad, and then like he's like, I'm gas. He's like, I couldn't fight then. I was like, he's like, so I'm gassing. This dude's phone falls out of his pocket. And so he's like, I just grab it and I take off running. And he's like, but I'm a fat kid, so I'm getting tired. And they're just like running, like I had just beaten the father-son duo down. They're yelling and stuff like, hey, come, stop. What are you doing? Just give us the phone. And he's like, and so I'm getting tired. And so I just like throw the phone. And there are thousands of stories like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like the same thing, like growing up, like in South City, same thing. We're in our front yard. Me and my brother, like on a little sidewalk, riding a crappy skateboard, like playing catch or some dumb shit. And the neighborhood bully comes up, starting shit, and my sister of all people comes out, and like she was legit. She didn't. Take shit. She comes out and just hucks a baseball at this kid's chest.
Oh, damn.
Like, yeah. And then she's like, get the fuck off our yard. But that's like typical, like. They come up here like just fighting, just kids, like always like from the time you could walk until the time I left St. Louis at 15. It was just like you could get in a fight at any moment, and you had to be prepared for it. Like
really,
any moment.
It's the type of people, man.
It is.
That's how it was. Is when I got to high school, I went to Melville, and that area, that part of South St. Louis County, is where it starts to get a little rougher, and then it just turned into fights constantly.
That's like you have certain guys that you will come over, like Joe Kelso.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, Joe, you're home here when you come. When you come,
Joe loves it here.
Yeah,
Joe loves it here.
And that's what he tells me. He's like, he goes, one day he shows up at my gym, totally unannounced, of course. There's no culture of like, hey, should I send Josh a text message? Is it okay?
Show up, yeah.
Professor, should I show? No, that's not the TAC team way. No. Jeff did that to Mark Vives the other day. Just showed up at his gym. Yeah. I said, hey, send him a message, man. And like, oh, okay. And then Mark's like, yeah, this dude just was at my gym on a Thursday. Like, hey, I'm here to roll. Let's go. And so, but. That's just the TAC team culture. Is like, let's come over. Well, Joe says, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it to Revive. I'm in Illinois. I'll just go to Head Nod. He said, so I'm training. I'm going there to train. I'm talking on the phone to my dad. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to train with these guys from Granite City. And my dad said, hey, it's cool that you train with those guys from St. Charles. But those Granite City guys know how to work. He said, it's a little dangerous for you to be down there. And he's like, no, Dad, I fit in there. No, don't worry, Dad.
Kelso, he feels at home. He feels at home here. He might as well build a house out here, just like a vacation home. Seriously, he loves the culture, man. He's just a gritty dude.
He's a good motherfucker.
Yeah,
he's one of my favorite people.
Hates going to Watson's where he has to keep his shirt on.
And he can't sweat on people.
Yeah, he's not allowed to just like, wait, I can't just walk around in my underwear at your gym after
outside.
Not even I can't leave the gym in my underwear.
You mean I can't take a bath with baby
wipes
in
the front of Revive
during the kids class? Like,
what do you mean?
No, that's right.
And like, yeah.
Always. But you always know what you're getting with Joe Kelso, man. You know the motherfucker you're getting every time.
That's true.
So, for either of you guys, have there been any moments of like being in jiu-jitsu, especially early on? Nick, especially, you said you weren't even looking, but do you have any specific moments, specific stories where you did go, oh wow, that was what I was looking for? This is going to be really good, or was it just a slow process for you?
I think it was a slow process, and then like when I first got out, I mean, I was fat when I was a recruiter, and I was like, fuck, I don't have to work out. Nothing, like there's no formal PT in the morning. Like, I'll fucking sleep in tonight. Like, whatever. I was hurt. So I mean, I went from like, the infantry world where it's wake up every morning, you're running 5 miles or rucking, and then it's just like very intense training and it's very regimented. Mind you, from 18 till I think I was 21, I was in the what we call the conventional side, just or a line unit where I'm just training to kill people or go into war, and then I come back from Iraq, and go to recruiter school, which I hated. I hated recruiter school.
I would hate that.
Oh my God. I volunteered to go back to Iraq. I'm like, hey, like I hate this shit. Like, let me finish out my contract in Iraq. I'll just do another year.
I'd feel like
and
a
be done.
scumbag
Dude,
being a recruiter. Like I just couldn't do it.
I hated it. And so when I get to recruiting, there's like limited oversight. My station commander was essentially like my platoon sergeant. It was like, hey, just be at the office at this time. It was actually a good, honestly, I look back now, it was a good transition into civilian world.
Yeah.
Because like when you get out of the Army, when you get out,
see you,
man, they're just like, hey, best of luck, motherfuckers.
It's apparently not like that now anymore.
But when we went out,
when we got out, they didn't
I had
give
to
a
ask
fuck.
nobody gave me any direction. Nobody gave me anything. Like, yeah, I guess you're out processing. See you later. And it's like, well, what do I do with my hands, kind of thing? I don't know what's going on. And so I went.
You guys didn't teach me this part,
dude. Nothing.
Or
And then
give a fuck.
Yeah, they didn't give a shit. And then like you go to like a dumbass class on how to write a resume. I'm like, I didn't even know what a resume was. I was a poor South St. Louis kid, joined the Army, and I knew Army, but I'm like, resume, I don't need that shit. And then also you think like, I'm gonna be a cop or something. I'm infantry. Yeah, I know.
And or you just don't fucking think about it. Your brain is just like, fuck this. I want to get the.
Dude, it was like getting out of prison.
Civilian life.
It was like getting out of prison, getting out of the Army. And so like when I just remember it was like a weight lifted off of my chest.
Yeah.
The moment I got my DD-214.
Oh, yeah,
I was like,
dude,
this
that's
is
a great
DD-214 is like your discharge paperwork. Has like a summary of what you did and all this stuff in the Army. And I was
it's
like,
the golden ticket to get you the fuck out
it
of
was
there.
so great. Once that was signed in my hands, it was like, I'm free. So so yeah, like, getting out of the Army and transitioning, I was like, I was a fat bastard. I was like overweight, didn't work out anymore. And I think like, I was probably depressed, like straight up depressed. And I was drinking and stuff. And then I think the transition for me to where I was like, oh, this is what I needed was I went from like 240 to like 195 in a year. And like, I had friends and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I met guys that I'm still friends with today. And they were older, younger, like my age, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, these are cool people. These are the people I want to be around. I think it was probably about a year later when I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I needed.
That's cool. Do you have any like at that time? When did you start to like kind of commit to like, dude, I really want to do this more? Because I know you've told like when you first got hit with MMA and going, okay, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
But just with jiu-jitsu, when did you kind of go? Was there a time even for you where you're like, oh, I want to coach, I want to?
When I knew I wanted to do it after like forever after my very first class. So I went there and I had great instruction. Got choked out 5 times by a dude smaller than Bryce. And I'm like, fuck, what?
Fucking
like,
awesome.
Dude, if I can, like, I'm 10 times bigger than this guy.
Yeah.
So if I can like, if he can choke me, think about if I got as technical as him, I'd kill everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I just thought it was like figuring out puzzles. Like that's what it like intrigues me is like you're always trying to figure out a puzzle every time you do jiu-jitsu. And so day one, right after my first class, I signed up. I was like, yep, this is what I want to do, 100% forever. And then I think when I got blue belt, I started helping just as being an assistant coach. I was like, oh yeah, man, like this is my future. This is what I want to do. And I spent my entire 20s just coaching and doing jiu-jitsu. That's it. From 22 until 30, essentially, when I went back to college, was just teaching jiu-jitsu. And I knew from like a year in, that's what I wanted. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, it was instant. It was instant. I got very lucky, and me and my wife and my son all started at Revive right when it was opening. I mean, it had opened like 3 weeks prior to us joining, and so it was still a real small group. I mean, I joke all the time. My first class was a Friday night, me and Junior, and Junior's like, "So what do you want to learn?" And I was like, "I don't fucking know any of it, man."
Just here.
And so it just started from there, and. I could go on forever about the culture at Revive, but that place, I love that place, man. And I'm one of the fortunate people, I hear all these horror stories about these other gyms and all this stuff. I landed right into an incredible culture because I don't think I would have stayed with it. I love jiu-jitsu, but I can't do that ego bullshit and fucking people trying to, just douchebag mentality that I hear is out there. And I got lucky. That doesn't exist at Revive. It truly doesn't. And if it comes in, it gets squashed very quickly. And so I instantly fell in love with it, man. I think my first role was with Junior, and that's back when I was all I cared.
260.
Yeah, I was like,
This guy
He was a
came in.
big boy.
Yeah,
I remember.
monster,
I
I
think
was a big dude.
I trained with you really early on.
You
in
did,
jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
I remember me and Emily went over on
Yep,
Friday.
I remember.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember something specifically. I did something. You go, oh, don't do that. Don't do
that.
You just fucked me
Yep,
up.
don't do that, man. Don't do that.
Yep. I remember that all the time. But yeah, man, I was a big motherfucker. I was like 265, and all I cared about was lifting heavy shit and being a monster. And Junior just manhandled me like a child. The worst thing that he does to you is that like get your sleeves and then does that,
Overhead sweep?
That overhead sweep, and you feel like a fucking child.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most just demoralizing fucking thing.
That or when he gets the crazy dog pass.
Oh, yeah, that crazy
dude.
dog pass.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone against some of the best people in the world, and I still haven't felt pressure like that.
I know. I
that
agree.
is pressure.
His
Crazy.
ability to finish that pass. I remember one time we positional sparred. This would have been years ago, and like nobody ever passed my guard, and I would be chilling from guard against anybody I would go with. And this dude in a positional spar one day passed my guard like 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah.
And eventually I was like, he will never touch my collar again.
Yeah.
If he touches my collar, he's going to pass me.
Yes.
And it's super hard to
heard
keep
you
him
said
off of
that
it.
before, too.
But like,
100%,
if he touches your collar, he already has your legs. He always has your legs.
Always.
And those little baby hands, man, they just sneak in on you. And once they grab, it's like he can get in the threads, man. And he just like, you're not getting him out.
yeah.
And he's going to put the pressure on you, bro.
That pressure is
God.
rough, dude. It's horrible. It's relentless.
God, it is. It's nonstop.
Yeah.
And then if you make the slightest mistake, he already has 5 answers for it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it just gets worse. It
Uh-huh.
gets worse.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he also has the speed too. When he picks up the pace and starts going hard, I can't keep up, man.
We fought or what I was going to say about Junior before I started making fun of him was that overhead sweep. I actually didn't wish him a happy birthday yesterday on social media because that's the only picture that I have that's like me and him. Oh. It's like the picture of him teaching it at that seminar.
Yeah,
and he overhead swept me.
Was that at Kyle's?
It was at Kyle's.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
when they did the black belt camp, and I was the Oogie for 8
I remember
black
that.
belts
I
in a
remember
row.
that.
In that Rafael Lang guy showed a throw just in the Q&A portion, and he's like, "Yeah, you want to like it's a blanket, and you're like." It's dusty and you want to throw it. And he's like giving the example. And he's been so gentle. He's like the most gentle the whole time. Then he does the little wrist thing. And I splatter on Kyle's half-inch thick on top of
carpet.
concrete mats.
It's carpet.
In a culture now where everyone has subfloors, Kyle's like, no, dude, we have gravel with mats on in the most mega facility in the air in the Midwest.
Incredible.
100.
We've got
beautiful.
you were just concrete
Yeah.
on the mats.
It might as well be puzzle mats.
Might as well
be puzzle
Might
mats.
as well be concrete.
Yeah, might as well. Shit.
And that dude splattered me. That was a terrible experience,
Dude.
And that's why I treat Bryce the way I treat him when he's my Uki.
That's right.
I take it out on him.
Got to, man. So
Yeah.
you got to pass that down. That's the
Yeah.
same way in the military, man.
Yeah.
You get treated like shit, so when the new guys come, you got to
They
treat them like
technically
shit.
call it hazing. We're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
no-go
it
anymore.
was me and Nick. Nick caught on in a 1/10 of a second. We were just in Wisconsin, and it was his first time teaching at this camp. And I taught at it last year, and it's like 3 days. And so Nick comes in, he sees me teach. I'm mocking Bryce, and Nick's like, "Got it. I get what
see where this is,
what
yeah.
this camp's about." And so he's making fun of Bryce. We're having a blast, right? We are having a grand old time making fun of Bryce. But he caught on quick, and we're talking. And I go, it's funny because I say some really harsh stuff when I have Bryce, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the shtick, man.
Yeah, of course.
And so I'll say some really mean stuff, and some people don't know me at all. They don't know Bryce, and they're like, I see their face, right? And I go, so about 70% of people just laugh, and then about 30% of the people recognize it for what it actually is, which is just borderline bullying. And those 30% of people will either see my point of view, or what ended up happening by the end of it, the whole crowd was chanting Bryce. They were like, man,
they rallied around him.
We're all lower belts. We're all lower belts. We get treated
This could be
way
any
too.
of
They were trying to throw us out of the gym at the end.
And it's like, okay, rise up. All right, rise up. Let's see.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We treat the right guys in the room really kindly,
Yeah.
and then we say, "Hey, Matt Green, they're
Oh, yeah.
rising up. They're rising up. Are you gonna let that
That's
happen
right.
on
That's
your
right,
watch?"
man.
And Matt's all about it.
He's all-
he loves
like,
that shit, man.
He's like, yeah, just point like it's like
Yeah.
Huebner and Matt are the same way.
Yeah.
I think it's that wrestling mindset. It's like, hey,
Bro, I don't let him do it. I don't let Huebner do it. I let him do it once. He nearly killed a guy, and I said, hey, that was my bad. I said, I'm sorry, bro. I did say, hey, Eric, have you rolled with Johnny? And he goes,
Gotcha.
He goes, okay. Okay, I got it. And then he almost, I mean, obviously changing the name of Johnny, but Johnny tried to double hand rape choke him at a point. And
God.
Huebner actually looked at me and smiled. And then almost snapped his neck off. Hit him with the choke so fast and so tight in response. But he looked right at me and he smiled. And then he did it, and I was like, hey, I'm not gonna have you do that to anybody.
because
else again.
he's like, I did a good thing, right?
Yeah,
boss?
he's like,
I did the right good.
he's like,
I did what you told me to do.
I smashed.
So that's,
You know?
that's how it is. If I'm like, somebody needs to get smashed up,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'll inside. This is a little inside coach's trick here. I'll be like, hey, Matt, go with this guy. Hey, Matt, you got this guy next, and that's the green light. It's like,
Somebody recently told me that the green light was if I call you by your last name.
Mark Vivas was one who said that, right?
Oh, dude, you just ratted him out. I was trying to keep it.
Cut that out, Bryce. Cut that out.
Everyone knows. But a friend of ours told us that hey, if I call you by your last name, Josh McKinney, go roll with Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
you know what's
coach.
up. You know
That's
what's
good.
Got it.
I like
what's
Right?
coming.
But that's a culture that is in jiu-jitsu that people all recognize, but we all, and it definitely could be overdone, but we all recognize that there is a place for it. There are
it's
certain
100%.
guys that
It's
can come
important.
in and be so rough and physical and
Yeah, at the point, like as a gym owner, like I cannot let a cancer come into the gym
Yeah.
and ruin what I've built, hurt students, and they don't want to come back. Like you're taking out of my pocket money wise. You're taking away from the culture that I built. You know, friends might lose. A student might lose a friend who doesn't want to come back anymore because so and so's there. So it's like, yeah, man, like that needs to get nipped in the butt.
that shit.
And as a coach, like I should be the last person to do that. You know, because obviously liability and all that stuff, and like you tell that person, hey, bro, tell them once, hey, man, like chill out, like take it easy. This guy's new or whatever. If they keep it going, then that's when that green light is like, hey, like you're
Got to learn a tough lesson.
You're gonna learn.
Yeah.
One time, one of my blue belts now was just telling me a story, and he's like, dude, I don't even think you cared that this happened when it happened. He goes, but it was a really good wrestler hurt him, and he's like, and he's really new, and he was really upset, and I could just see it. And I walked over, and I go, hey, what happened? And he told me, and the guy was being a jerk. He was just way too strong, you know, and it just like he was really being a jerk. And I go, and like he's a tough wrestler too.
Yeah.
And I go, hey man. I go, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And he's like, oh, okay. And he goes, and then I watched you just starch this guy. He's like he owed you money. You were beating this guy down bad.
Nice.
And he goes, and I remember, he's like, I've known you for 4 weeks. He's like, I had been training at the gym for a month. And I go, that was cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
yeah.
That felt, I felt like I was wronged there.
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't cool what that guy did. And somebody went and handled that for me. He's like, I like being here.
Well, it's what your students feel protected. Like
Yeah.
your team feels like, man, someone's got my back. Again, it's another part of what makes jiu-jitsu so incredible. It's like, people actually give a shit. And if someone fucks with you, they're going to pay that price. Or if they're fucking with the culture or anything like that, that's a necessary thing that has to be there.
Yeah, and when they see the leader of the team
That's
or
right.
a leader, like not necessarily the coach, but like a leader, one of the higher belts, like, hey man, like I could beat this guy up, but some outsider can't come in here and beat
That's
this guy
right.
up. That's not how it flies. And some people need to be taught that harsh lesson. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. There's going to be some people that, some people in the jiu-jitsu community are kind of soft. And that whole, like my stance on jiu-jitsu is for everybody is bullshit. Like I'll say that straight up. Like
Let's hear it,
it's
Nick.
not. Man, jiu-jitsu is tough, dude. It's a
really
combat.
tough.
It's a
It's
combat art. It's a martial art. Like you got to have a certain mindset. And if you can't have that mindset, you know, like I think of it this way: it's like, okay, if I get in a real fight, I have jiu-jitsu. If I train to not be in a real fight, I'm going to get my ass kicked. Why the fuck am I training in the first place?
Yeah.
And this jiu-jitsu for everybody crap, like, there are people who should not even be training because they don't have the right mindset. They're just not good people or whatever it might be. It's like that jiu-jitsu for everybody nonsense. That's just a shtick to make money. That's bullshit. Like, I don't like that.
I agree. Yeah. I think I'll say this for sure. My gym isn't for everybody. No. You know what I mean? No. Like, I mean, and I understand that. I'm not upset about that. That's not like when somebody goes, oh, well, we were talking about it last night. It was me and a group of some of my students. We were just talking about like training and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you know what's funny is like people at my work will like, they do jiu-jitsu. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, you train at Head Nod. Like, I hear those guys are nuts. I hear those guys just, you know, they're training so hard all the time. And they're like, you know, and they're really like, everybody's super rough. And like, nah, that's really not true. It's not. It's just, this is the version of our jiu-jitsu. And we're looking for a specific group of people who want to do this. Right? I always joke, like, don't mess with any of the girls that train at this gym because if you're crazy enough to train here and be a girl or to be over 40, any of our guys over 40 are just unbelievably tough. Yeah, mentally strong. Yeah, you have to be in order to train here. You know, nobody. I'm the coach. I'm not going to help you. You know, I don't care. I can't even help me, dude. Like, you know, like you're in trouble. You gotta be a certain type of person. But I do agree. I know for sure that the jiu-jitsu that I offer is not always for everybody. At least the way that we train is definitely not for everybody.
Well, yeah, and I feel the same way at Revive. Like, you know, our lower belts, I want to bring people in, but like I'm also not going to coddle you and make you be like, oh, hey, yeah, like, no, it's soft, gentle art bullshit. No, man, like you're preparing for a fight. I'm gonna be real with you. Like,
well, I think there are gyms, you know, that the ones that are doing the shrimping down the mat at the beginning, you know, that you know, I think there are gyms that probably are for everybody. That, you know, white belts don't really roll. Like but I think, like you said, our culture that we have, I think it maybe I can't speak to all of TAC team, but TAC team in general,
I feel like it is. Like
it is a more one's an asshole.
Midwest jiu-jitsu culture.
Yeah,
I think so. Have you met Jared Weiner?
Yeah, that's true.
Dude.
Yeah, who's he gonna have around him?
Yeah, he's a cool motherfucker.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, when he came in, dude, I was stoked to meet him,
legit.
man. I was like, that's the motherfucker that I
right.
like.
You can read that like leadership quality,
100%, and just a cool motherfucker that doesn't fuck around.
And he's the type of guy is like, you know exactly what you get.
That's right.
Because he doesn't bullshit. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's like, hey, this is what I think, and you know, okay, I know exactly what he thinks because he just told me.
Yeah.
Like there's no pussyfooting around. He will let you know how he feels. And he's also a good leader because he'll ask you how you feel. Like, hey, what do you think about this? And then he'll make a decision based on that. Like, man, Jared's just a good dude.
He really is. And that same, it's like his coaching ability comes from, I think, his ability to observe things.
Yeah.
He will read somebody that I know from past experience to be a douchebag, right? And he will meet them in 1 second. And it's unbelievable. And I'll see his body language change. And it will be like, he won't answer this dude's question. He'll look at the dude. And the dude will like, just leave. Yeah. And I'll be like, hey, how did you know? How did you know from, he told you 2 sentences.
He just has
he has that sixth sense. Another example. We both saw this happen. We're at Revive. And it's the belt promotion. And so he's there. And, you know, freaking Little Jeff, who now I can probably just bash on the podcast legally, no worries.
Yeah, he's 18 now.
Yeah, so I don't even worry about it. Yeah. But he wasn't 18 at this time. He comes out on the mat. I'm sure he's doing something.
He still had long hair, too.
Yeah, he still has long hair. And Jared, literally, there's 30 people on the mat. You know, Jared's been here for 5-10 minutes. And he points across the mat. And he goes, hey, you kid, come here. And Jeff runs over full sprint. Hey, sir, it's very nice to meet you. My name's Jeff. And he goes, hey, who's your coach, man? And he goes, Josh McKinney's my coach. And I've got my head down and I'm shaking my head. And he puts his arm around him and he goes, Josh, I like this kid. He goes, go stand next to your coach. Well, then we're talking a little bit later, and Jared's like, we're just talking about just the next generation of jiu-jitsu guys, like younger guys. More it's talking about the next generation and then how that applies to those are going to be the guys doing jiu-jitsu next, right? And so we're talking about that and just talking about dealing with different problems in the gym and stuff. And he's like, the job's valuable. He goes, it really matters because there's mentorship. And this is something that I needed to hear at the time because Jared reads everybody. So he's reading me at the time. And he's like, and guys need mentorship. He's like, for instance, your boy right here, he goes, I could tell when he stepped on the mat, he was a day from doing crystal meth, man. He goes, he's like, I could tell. He goes, I could tell this kid was a nut. He's like, but I could also tell he was a really good kid. And he's like, and then I hear he's your guy, and he's like, okay, well, stand by him. He's like, go stand by your coach. And he's like, those kids need more mentorship. And I'm like, dude, this guy read so many things all at once.
For sure.
Just such an amazing leadership quality.
Yeah, he is. When I met him for the first time at that last seminar that he did. I hadn't met him
Kyle's,
before
right?
that. Yeah, Kyle's here recently. And yeah, man, I could tell instantly he was, my type of people, man. To me, my favorite type of individuals, the people that I have tried to emulate as I grew up and all that, is the kindest, most genuine, good people, but will fuck your world up in a fucking heartbeat and not a single thing about it. You know what I mean? And that's exactly, he just seems like a good fucking dude, but he doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, I love that type of people, man. That's my favorite type of individual, dude.
Like Philly cop,
for a
long time, you've seen everything.
Yeah,
seen everything.
I'm sure that's why he's so good at profiling people, man. He's so good at being wasn't he a detective and everything?
He is a detective now.
Yeah, just so good at reading people before they even know themselves, I'm sure.
Dude, just so many cool stories, but he is such a just a different guy. He'll just be like, yeah, Josh, we should go fight these people. And I'm like, Jared, I mean, I'm a little too old to be fighting people, man. And they didn't do anything wrong to us. And you're like 20 years older than me, man. And he's like, nah, it'll be cool. Like, okay, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. And that's why I think he likes me. He's like, yeah, this, Granite City might as well be Philly. It might as well be.
100%, yeah.
So speaking of leadership qualities, this one, I don't think I've ever brought this up before, but, and I'm sure you've noticed this, Nick's the best recruiter in the world. And I didn't even know that you went to recruiter school, but it makes sense. But if you will if Nick hears a guy say, yeah, man, I think I'm just done with jiu-jitsu. Like these are guys a purple belt. And he's like, it just, had a bad experience. Don't want to do anything. And I'll just look over and Nick will be like, hey, man, you should come to Revive. We've got this is what happened. Okay, we've got this. We'll take care of you. And we'll there's something about it. And I see it over and over, as one of your biggest quality. I just notice you do it. What are your thoughts on it? What are your, what do you think about?
So when I in that particular instance, if somebody's upset about, what happened in their other previous gym, which is super common, so common in jiu-jitsu, which is crazy. I mean, I don't think that knock on wood, I don't think that I've ever had anybody leave Revive and be like, I fucking hate you guys.
I'd be blown away to find that out. Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy.
I've never heard anything about.
There have been times I've left Revive, but that's just a day. I've never posted it on Facebook or anything.
I hate Junior for making me throw up.
There are times that Junior would make me fight Max 7 times in a row after training, and he would be like, oh yes, this is the last time. And then he would be like, Max, squeeze him to death. Squeeze him to death.
You're about to pass Max.
Kill him.
So my backstory, one of my other previous locations I was at that I was under a guy, I didn't leave on the best terms, and that cult mentality where they just like, hey man, you're a big piece of shit.
You're trash now.
Why? Because I left a fucking team.
That's crazy.
I left a team that wasn't my fit anymore, and I wanted to do my own thing. And I told the guy from the beginning when I moved here that I want to start my own gym one day. And that's what I intended to do. And I was up front. Didn't leave the team on the best of terms. Obviously, that was my fault. And I'll completely admit that. But it's I had that experience. And so when I hear that, I instantly have like that emotional connection because I know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And so when I recruit people like that, I'm like, hey man, look, like Revive is not like that at all. Like it's not like anything you experience. And I would hate to see somebody who is a blue, purple, even white belt, brown belt, whatever, just be like, yeah, I'm done. I'm giving up on this. And it's like, man, I like this jiu-jitsu is giving me so much. Like it is I have a gym that I make money at. I have amazing friends. My wife does jiu-jitsu. My kids do jiu-jitsu every now and then. Got to travel the whole U.S., do seminars, meet amazing people. It's like, why would you want to give up on that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see anybody give up on that because of some asshole at another gym.
That's 100% right.
So it's like, that's why I really am like, hey man, like that's why I want to recruit people to come to my gym because like, hey, our gym might not be the best, but come check it out. You might like it. If you don't, I have other places that I can refer you to that are better than where you came from.
Yeah.
So
and it's like, and that's my thing is like, it's not, my gym is not for everybody, but it is for a certain person.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you do come in and you're a good fit, then you can train.
Yeah.
Something like I just notice with how helpful that is for with starting a new team. When you're like, hey, we've got a lot of misfits everywhere, but we have a lot of tough people. You know what I mean? And just have a really tough room.
Did you how many upper belts did you get from other gyms when you started Head Nod?
I had Huff, I had Huebner, and those guys really did. We trained together coming up. You know what I mean? Like we were training in my garage. Eventually, even at first, my black belt Justin Kitchler, but he was at the time he was a blue belt still, I think. And then we had a few other guys that tried it, but no one that really stuck. Right. But I really built. If you look at like all the guys that are in my room, there most of them are pretty much white belt.
That's awesome.
To the even like all the tough brown belts I have, most of them they were my white belts.
That's awesome. Like I think when we started, we had a few transplants that came around, and like I said, like you said. Our gym's a particular way, so if you fit into the culture, you could stay. And we've had a few come in and out,
of course.
But I think most of our people are like white to whatever rank they are now.
I think a lot of it we've gotten more now. Like I think Revive has gotten a lot more upper belts that have come from other places now. But I think there's a massive chunk of homegrown. Like I mean,
for sure, for sure.
But we all need to talk about the fact that Nick was obviously sitting outside of CrossFit gyms, recruiting people, going, "Hey man, have you ever thought about trying jiu-jitsu? Oh, you don't know what that is? Come here, man. Let me talk about it."
College wrestling rooms,
bro. College wrestling rooms, like that's the recruiting that this dude will do. Is he'll be like, "Well, yeah, why wouldn't we have this person on the team?"
It's so wild though. Like I don't know how we got so many big guys, but there are so many big guys that Revive.
A lot of.
I don't know.
We always joke like, okay, we're gonna go to Revive and fight the super soldiers. And some of my guys, like all the Revive guys come to my open mat, like a bunch of people come to my open mats on Sundays, but like a bunch of my guys have been coming on Fridays to yours. And somebody made this statement of like, man, why is it that we all come over here? These guys are all huge. And I go, yeah, exactly. I didn't invite you guys. I've been coming over here because these guys are all huge and I can go 100% on these 220-pound guys and know I'm not going to hurt them. I can try to kill them, you know? And like, it's a very similar feel to what 180-pound steroid user feels like, you know? And so I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for you guys to be here.
Don't come.
But you're here. You're here.
That's right. Yeah, we got a lot of big dudes.
We do. We got, and that's a good question. I was going to think about. I was like, is it maybe because of the coach? You know?
That's kind of what my thought was a lot of guys that are big may feel awkward when they start jiu-jitsu, but like they go and the freaking Nick Sanders is their coach. And they're like, okay, so you can be big and do this too. And it works better. Got it.
Yeah.
I think we also have a lot of veterans, I feel.
We do have quite a few vets.
Because like, do you have many veterans?
No, we don't let that happen.
Those crazy
really no police officers, no veterans.
Definitely no police officers.
Definitely don't want that.
We have a really good, we work with Rolling for Recovery. We were like their first gym that did that.
Awesome.
And so we always will get guys from that. But then it's like kind of that thing of like, a guy that's a veteran comes in and I'm like, oh, hey, you should go in that corner because that's where all those guys hang out. That's where they all, this guy's a veteran, this guy's a veteran. And like, then it makes it easy for them to go.
For sure.
You know, it's just like seeing a big guy or, you know, if there was an Asian person in Granite City, they would sign up when they came in.
100%.
Yeah, they would be like, oh, this guy, I like this guy, you know.
I could just tell.
Yeah, this
like
guy's
this
going to
guy.
be good. But like you look at most of my guys are 25 to 30.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have more adult guys
You
than
do.
it seems
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
anybody.
you
We got a lot of
I'm an-
masters.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
an
we got a
adult
lot
too.
of
them. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if it's just like that's what sticks the most, especially
Maybe.
since we push competition so much.
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Yeah, I think that could probably be it. Like, we have a lot of masters competitors.
We
a lot,
do.
A lot of masters.
But bro, you
students.
want to just talk about a deck of cards that's wild. Watson martial arts.
Everywhere. He's got everything.
Yeah, he's got everything at that gym.
Who was
man.
that guy that he did the crazy like triple bag kick or whatever? You know what I'm talking about? He
Oh gosh, dude.
Kyle brings some of the wildest people to
Kyle's
his gym.
got a wild crew, man. He really does. He really does. All right, guys. So, Bryce, what's our time currently? Perfect time for a commercial break. Perfect.
All right, let's do it.
What's up, guys? Josh McKinney here. I figured I would give you guys a second on this commercial break and just ask, hey, how do you like this episode so far? You know, I really think that this is the feel of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show in the future. And so there's also some changes for us as we move into the future, not really as much on the show, but on simplifyingjujitsu.com. And one of the big changes that we are making is we are in the midst of working on like 5 different instructionals right now. And so what we wanted to do is make sure when those come out that we don't overshadow some of the really good instructionals that we have in simplifyingjujitsu.com right now, including the Star Spangled Spider Guard with Nick Sanders. And so this is the guard that Nick used to really dominate for years, the guard that we actually weren't able to play at all at Pans when he tore his groin. And but man, a guard that I have seen work over and over in competition at the highest level. And Nick is, as you can hear on this episode, a phenomenal explainer of things and a phenomenal explainer of jiu-jitsu. And so I really think that you guys will love that. And it is 50% off with promo code New Studio. And I know that that sale ended, but I've just gotten so many messages over the last couple weeks of, hey, I just kind of missed out. I just didn't pay attention, didn't see that 50% off deal. Is there any way I could get a coupon code for it? And so I just thought I would make sure to share that. And we're just going to run this for this week. So by the time the next episode comes out next Tuesday, this sale will be over. But for right now, 50% off everything at simplifyingjujitsu.com. This includes the Star Spangled Spider Guard. This includes how to learn jiu-jitsu, our newest instructional my dad and I just did. This includes mastering the duck guard, this cross sleeve guard system that I kind of invented a few years ago, and I think it would really help your guys' guard. All those are 50% off this week only at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Head over to simplifyingjujitsu.com and use promo code New Studio to get 50% off anything in the whole store. Let's get back to the interview. All right. Now that we're back from insulting Bryce, so I have tournament. I have to make 181, and I've made it a few times in the year, but it's just sometimes it's just harder to make than others. And I have been making it. It was funny. Me and Richie at the tournament. He goes, I'm like, dude, it's been weird. I have felt stronger than like everybody I fought at middleweight. And like, I know I fought guys that are geared up, but I felt stronger than them. And he goes, Josh, you cut 2 pounds to make middle in the morning. You're a really big middleweight. You know, he's like, that's it. And you diet really hard to get there,
right,
and then cut 2 pounds of water in the morning. He's like, that's a big middleweight thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Well, just so happens the next day I wake up and our scale at the gym, which is actually since, and you would expect me to have replaced it, it screwed me over. It screwed over like 3 or 4 other guys since then.
Oh, man.
But what ends up happening is I wake up 4 pounds over. And then I have to make that weight. It takes everything to make it on time and just to lose 4 pounds on time because I didn't have a sauna. I didn't have anything. I just had some sweats to wear.
Man, yeah.
I actually, and apologized to somebody at the Atlanta Open, I actually stole somebody's gi out of their bag. I was 0.1 over on the test
No
scale,
shit.
and I was about to get called again. I basically had no time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm fighting in 4 minutes or I'm being DQ'd, or 8 minutes or I'm being DQ'd. I'm gonna check Richie's bag and see if he's got a pair of lightweight pants. That's all I need. I'm 0.1 over. And maybe just even a pair of dry pants, and that's all I'm needing.
Yeah.
And so he has nothing. This guy that we had been hanging out with, his name was Christian. His bag was there. Well, I assumed it was his bag. And I check. And there's nothing. I was like, well, I don't even know this Christian guy very well. Maybe this is his bag. And then I checked that one. I'm like, I don't even know this Christian guy very well. Maybe this is his bag. And so by bag 37, I'm just looking to borrow somebody's gi pants for 1 second. I find somebody. I don't check the size. It is snug. I make it through.
Fuck yeah.
Everything goes good.
Only because you know somebody.
Make a few moves. I make a few moves, but I get the job done. I get on the scale. I make weight. And then I basically take a drink of water. I take a drink of coffee. I slap, bump, I get headbutted and get a concussion.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
This literally just
This
happened.
just
Yeah,
happened.
just happened,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah.
get a concussion, and I have to, I don't have to. I could have just realized I had a concussion and just stopped fighting, but I did keep fighting and
course,
eventually
right, yeah.
was coherent for 3 minutes in the match and scored enough points that I could then lay on my side and chill out for like.
Didn't you need the points to get to the Worlds too?
I did.
Yeah,
I needed
wow.
to get
So it
second.
was-
and I was
yeah.
in the semis.
Yeah,
and
you
so
got
it was like
second,
it was
yeah.
only 4 guys. And so I was like, that's one thing that I could keep in. And like my mind was messing up. It was weird to have the thoughts of like, what's going on? Why am I
Yeah, that's
getting?
wild.
I'm getting swept by stuff that I wouldn't get swept with. I'm good in these positions. Why can't I think of what's happening? And then when that happened, Richie actually had just got done competing, and so I didn't have a coach. He doesn't even know. He knew I had to cut 4 pounds. He saw me cutting weight seconds before I compete. He assumed I was just gassed,
Yeah.
and so he's trying to motivate me like, you got to keep going. You got to fight this,
not
fight
knowing.
this. And he's like, and nothing's happening. And he's like, you're doing weird stuff. And I'm like, something's going on with this guy. So he just keeps me motivated. And it kind of like wakes me up for a bit. And it wakes me up for about 3 minutes. And I, in that time, get like I'm in lasso on bottom. And Richie goes, he's basically given up. And he's like, hey, dude, just wrestle up. Just wrestle up on this. And I like from lasso. And I'm
God.
like, yes, sir. And I just stand up
pull
and
a Dan?
throw the guy down. And he's like, okay. He's like, Josh, how about we hand fight a little bit this time? How about we grip fight a little bit this time? And I'm like, I could hear the sarcasm in his voice when he said it. I'm like, oh, I heard that.
Yeah, I got
and
that.
so I like smash the guy in half, pass him, get to mount. And I'm like doing the math in my head, but I'm starting to realize I know I need the points. I know I have a concussion at this point. There's probably 4 minutes left, and I'm sure of it. I'm like, okay, I'm not just gassed.
Right.
I'm like, maybe I'm just telling myself this, and I'm just gassed. And I'm like, nope, my mind is doing weird stuff. There's something wrong. And so I know this is happening. I'm like, if I were to get bridge and rolled here, I'm like, I could try to take his back off of it, but if I were to get bridge and rolled, he's going to have a hard time making up these points that he needs.
Oh, yeah.
And I am going to play running man for the last 3 minutes of the match. And it's on YouTube somewhere. I don't think it's like clipped on YouTube, but I literally lay on my side and he almost gets my back, almost chokes me, almost gets my back, almost chokes me, and then eventually fights so hard for a choke that he pulls me on top and I'm on top in his guard. And I'm
Damn.
like,
This
time
is
to
it.
chill,
This is
man.
it.
Time to chill. Yep.
Well, speaking of that match, that guy, That was a dirty move. I watched it.
Yeah, you thought so?
I thought, hell yeah, he shot with his forehead to your face from like 100 feet away.
He seemed really nervous to me. And it was like, and he came out with the heart, because he didn't stop after it. He just kept blitzing with other random stuff. And he didn't he looked surprised to me. And obviously I was just concussed.
Right.
But he looked surprised and he apologized 50 times. And so, because a lot of people said that, they were like, man, it looks like he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm like, he was like so apologetic. He was like, no. It was like the top of my head, man. I'm so sorry that hurt. You couldn't compete. I'm so sorry. And so he was super. To me, he seemed cool about it.
But I know guys who
if
do
my
that.
boy Nick Sanders was there, Nick would have beat him down regardless.
Damn right. Dude,
we were
right
lucky that it was just me and.
It's wild. It's like, I mean, I do know competitors that do that on purpose. Like, I know competitors that do that, and it's bullshit.
That's
my
bitch
first
move
thought.
in my
It
opinion,
is,
man.
But if he said, okay, I won't besmirch the guy's name.
And so I assumed that was the assumption that I had, because me and Rich even talked about it. He's like, we watched it, and he's like, did you feel like it was on purpose? I was like, no, he wasn't even looking at me. It was like, go, and he just ran
head
man.
down.
He was just trying to blitz, and I really felt like it was a really weird experience because that happened, the weight cut happened, but I felt like there was a bit of a little more notoriety for the first time, and I started to notice it, and I'm like, whoa, people are kind of treating me a little bit differently. And then I saw him watching me walk up, and I'm like, he's watching me way too long. And then he looked away, and I was like,
you got him.
I was like, this guy's nervous about this. I know. And I never think of it in terms of that means I'm going to win. But I always think of it in terms of that means this guy's going to gas. If this guy's nervous in a 10-minute match, you put me out there for 10 minutes at my whatever pace that it is that I do jiu-jitsu at, I'm going to wear guys down.
Man, that psychological warfare is for real, man.
It really is.
Like, dude, it's like, especially once you do start getting a little name for yourself. Like, I'm not saying I'm a big name person, but guys in Master 2 black belt know who I am.
I've seen it. I've watched it and coached you in so many matches, and
they get perfect example, the Pan Am semifinals. That dude didn't want any part of me. I feel like he kind of gave up
and didn't really fight you the way he had fought his other matches to get to the semis.
Yeah, he came in scared, and of course I submitted him. I submitted him afterwards, but he was just super timid. So that psychological warfare is pretty awesome.
I have a picture in my head of being like, all right, Nick, we're in Mount. We can just stay on top. And Nick goes full Super Saiyan for a head and arm choke and just makes it happen because he knew that the guy was broke. He's like, and sometimes you wait and mount and the guy catches his breath and he starts to get back to half guard and then you have 3 minutes more fight. But Nick was like, nah, we're into this now. And as soon as he slapped that on, I started calling him a pan champ. I'm like, I was a semis, but I'm like, hey, you're a pan champ, buddy. I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I watched the other side of the bracket.
Fuck yeah.
We're winning this.
Yeah. And that finals match was pretty fun, but it was tough.
Hell yeah.
But I got 2 stories for the weight cutting. The first one is when I gave everybody COVID.
You fucking scumbag, bro.
I'm glad that we're far enough out.
Where people are going to cancel it a while ago.
We couldn't have discussed this.
They'd be at my freaking gym with pitchforks and burn it down.
But anyway, let's not throw out any years or anything.
Yes.
But, you give everyone COVID.
I had to say the year. It was
You might not have. No,
I will. I have to say it because it was right after the lockdowns were all done. It was 2020.
Yeah, it was when it was the first time that things were starting to kind of open up.
I remember,
and they were like, "Hey, personal responsibility. When you have symptoms of COVID-19,
Don't
assume you have COVID-19
and do the right
even
thing.
without a test. Yeah, do the right thing.
Dude,
protect your brother. Go ahead, Nick
So
Sanders.
it was the very first. I'm a shitbag, but I don't care. I'm here to win. But
100% scumbag.
But yeah, so it was the Atlanta Open, and the next day was the Nogi Pans. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this. I signed up for it. So the Friday night before the Atlanta Open, we get down there, by the way, Matt Green and I went, and I got an Airbnb. It was in the hood.
Oh,
It was
that me and Richie took a walk to a gas station that turned out to be an auto body shop and not a gas station.
yeah.
So there was no snacks like we assumed, and we thought we were gonna die.
dude. I was like, we were close to like College Park, and I was like, shit. I think I messed up, Matt. He's like, yeah, you probably did. Yeah, like, let's lock the doors. But anyway, so that Friday night, I was like kind of restless and had some like muscle aches. I'm like, maybe it's just like the weight cut and all that stuff. I didn't really think much of it. And then that Saturday, I went like 3-0. I had like 3 subs on the Atlanta Open. I was like, man, I feel good. Like I feel good. Like a little sluggish, a little tired, but I feel pretty good. That night. Oh, well, first off, here's my dumb ass too. I'm like, I competed. I probably lost at least like 3 or 4 pounds. I could eat a little bit. So I ate a little more than I should have for the next day.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. Because in no-gi, you have to be even lighter.
You have to be even lighter.
215,
215
man.
for super
it's-
heavy
dude,
is fucking
yeah.
stupid. So anyway, I'm like, I should be good. I should be good. So that night, I'm like, getting some cold sweats. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I'm getting sick. And it doesn't even dawn on me it's COVID. I'm like, what? I've been wearing my mask. You know,
I'm definitely not COVID.
You know that it Revive at that time. They're practicing all
yeah,
the
we were.
social distancing.
Oh, yeah.
protocols.
We did really well, man.
Yeah,
we were
you
doing
guys,
good,
yeah,
man.
You guys were like,
We did every precaution we
Every
could.
precaution
yeah.
that well, hold on. We lived in real America. St.
That's right.
Charles, they're like,
That's
hey,
right.
6
They didn't
weeks,
give a fuck.
Open the fuck up. Like,
They
and
did,
we
man.
did. We shut down
yeah,
for
as
6
if you
weeks.
weren't open before that 6 weeks.
Well, I told Junior, I was like, hey, bro, I don't give a shit what they say. We are never closing down again.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
when
not
I
doing it.
reopened, it was the same thing. It was probably under a little stricter rules
You
when I
were way
reopened.
worse over here.
way
and,
worse.
But I reopened, and I literally like 6 different guys came up to me and were like, "Hey, I've never been on antidepressants, and in the 8 weeks that we haven't had
man.
jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
I've had to get on antidepressants."
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay, we're not going to close."
Yeah.
That's right.
It was,
Yeah.
it was so that whole thing was bullshit. It was
that's
crazy.
A whole, we could do
I mean,
a
and
whole
I understand, like, precautions. We didn't know what it was, but man, fuck
At
that.
first,
like, I'm
yeah.
healthy. I'm gonna survive. So anyway, that night, the next day, I wake up, I'm like 5 pounds over. I'm like,
God damn.
Yeah, dude, I was fucking.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I am a dumbass.
Yep.
So I get to the practice scale, and I'm like, fuck, I really am 5 pounds over. 'Cause
Yep,
I had
you're
my
like,
scale-
maybe I'm
Yeah,
just
maybe it's wrong. Yeah.
So I go out. I have my sauna suit on, all this shit, and I thought I'd be like 1 or 2. Like I usually like to cut 1 or 2 that morning, get a good sweat. So I'm out in the parking lot, just running from light pole to light pole, and then I can't run light pole to light pole because I'm dying from breathing. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? So I'll jog 1 and I'll walk 1, jog 1, walk 1. I'm dying, and like I know I'm in shape. Like I know I know I'm in shape. So I go back in, and also they were doing the temperature check.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't know how I
Oh,
passed.
yeah.
I don't know how they weren't going to let Luigi through because he was like kind of hot. He wore like a jacket and he was warm. He didn't pass the first go with the temperature check.
wow.
It was like at 99 or something, and he's
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck?" I don't. It's like, and he finally got through. But so I made it through somehow both days through the temperature check, and then I competed. And I won pans, but after every round, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, I can
I
only
thought I was going to
imagine.
die, and probably gave everybody COVID there.
Almost
There,
definitely.
yeah, there are
Almost
some
everybody.
guys you fought there whose like uncle died. You
Probably.
know what?
Probably.
Freaking
It was
Nick.
worth Nick
No,
Sanders.
hey, look, no. Everybody wore masks and visors, and they sprayed down the mats in between. We're
True.
safe.
You're right.
That's
You're
true.
right.
That's true.
You're right.
COVID.
That
They
makes
killed
sense.
everything.
We're good. Killed
That's
everything.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing with the black belt tip. So this is I've heard. I'm not gonna say if I do it or not, but I've heard. So I have a black belt that is a karate belt. It weighs maybe 2 ounces, and I have my lightest light gi that's the same color as my competition gi. And so I'm not saying it works or not, but if you go to the gi check with your super tiny ass light belt and gi with a jacket on, take it off, get away, put your jacket back on, go in the bullpen, go right back out, say, hey, I'm going to use the bathroom, and then change to your heavy ass awesome competition gi. They don't recheck.
Motherfucker.
Because once you weigh in, you weigh in.
That's good.
Man.
That's good.
Black belt tip.
As Josh McKinney, host of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show, I never ever do anything shady.
Never.
I mean, I did steal that guy's gi, and I've done other stuff too. But yeah, I've heard of some good stuff. But here's the best one I've ever seen. And it was a guy that one of my guys was getting ready to compete against. Dylan was getting ready to go. It was at purple belt, and it was the Nogi. He only had one guy in his division. And the guy walks over, and the guy's tough too. And so it was like, oh, we're going to get to fight this really tough guy. We'd seen that he had been cutting weight. And he walks up to the scale, and the scale is right next to the table. And so you really technically can't see the guy unless he knows, really doesn't see what the feet are doing on the scale. So he keeps a toe off the back of the scale to keep his weight. And I see it, and I point, and I go, hey, Dylan, should we say anything about that? And he goes, no, I want to fight him. And I go, okay. And we watch, and the guy that was sitting at the check looked at it, and he looked for a second. Then he looked at him, and he goes, you didn't make it. And the guy goes, well, what did I weigh? And he goes, you didn't make it.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, let me do it again. And he goes, okay. And he stood on it, and he goes, and he did the exact same thing again. He goes, you didn't make it. And then he just walked away, and they DQ'd him.
Damn.
But we're like, dude, we watched it. I've never seen anybody do that one.
Damn.
You know what else you could do? I've seen that also works. You remember Daniel Cormier when he was pushing down? Same thing.
The table.
The table.
Uh-huh.
He
I've
pushed
seen
down
guys
on the
do that.
Push down the table, and you can lose like 3 pounds. Literally. You just push down.
You're putting your weight on the table.
Yeah, you push down. You just push down real light, and you can lose like just with a light touch. You could lose like 2 or 3 pounds.
No, fucking
It's
ass.
fucking.
I like it. Giving
Dude,
some good knowledge
like
right here.
black belt tips.
Those
bro.
really
Like,
are black belt tips.
I mean,
Those-
it's so crazy how we just try to skirt the rules as best we can.
But as funny as that is, that's also kind of the jiu-jitsu culture.
It really is.
And sometimes then it's expressed in a bad way. You know what I mean? It's expressed in a way of like, hey, if your buddy's out of town and you cheat on you and his wife cheat together, if he doesn't find out, it's not a big deal. Like they didn't find out, right? It's no big deal, right?
Dude.
And so I just think that like it is a big difference. You could take that culture and put it in a bad space, you know? But I really do think that it is part of the jiu-jitsu culture. You think about like when people say this is the way to pass the guard. It's like, well, it is
a way,
until somebody else decides, well, what if there's a better way?
Yeah.
What if I do it this way?
Or
You know?
even back to the competition setting, how many times have you seen coaches sway the referee? By like,
Oh, yeah,
clearly
100%.
that probably wasn't an advantage, but you got the right coach, the right credentials,
and
yelling the right stuff.
And the right
Junior's
stuff,
real good
dude.
about that,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
He'll
That's
start
what it
yelling,
is.
getting in the ref's head, man. Hell
Calling him
yeah.
professor.
Yeah.
He's a professor.
Well, at one of the Pan Ams Junior was coaching me at, he was actually calling the guy a little bitch for not giving me the points.
That's not going to work so well.
So there was one time that I was grappling, and I had my boy Nick Sanders coaching me. I don't even think we were on the same team at this point.
Was it that the new breed?
No, this was a Chicago Open one time.
Okay. Oh,
And
God.
So and so, dude, the ref really did.
he
He
fucked
made
you.
like 3 bad calls in a row.
Yeah,
he really,
he really
and it
fucked
was like
him.
I was winning the whole match. Really screwed me over. It was the final.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when he had made like the first bad call, Nick really let him have it, and then he made a few other ones and. Ref's decision to me and everything, and it was like he just totally made the wrong call.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, you had your opponent in a fully locked on calf slicer at the end, and it was tied. He should have got an advantage right at the end. And I'm yelling at this guy, and the ref looks at me and shakes his head.
doesn't give an advantage,
oh,
and
man.
not only that, but gives the 2 points while he's in the calf slicer.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, which like I fell back on the calf slicer, seeing it going. Well, even if I don't finish, I have a submission.
Yeah, and there's no, and he should not get 2 points because he's caught in that. Even at the end of the match, he doesn't get 2 points because he never got out of the submission.
No advantage for it, and it was
Yeah.
like 20 seconds. It was tight.
It was tight. I mean, he was squirming. Your opponent was squirming.
And it was it was just and when it was like my opponent, it was a good match.
Yeah,
Yeah, he fought
yeah.
super well. It
And
was
he's a
like
tough guy,
Yeah,
too.
and so we really did. But it was kind of like both of us were kind of like, well, that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Yeah,
a cool
that's
way to,
bullshit.
to end that, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
But Nick let that ref have it.
yeah, I mean, like, bro, you gotta let him know.
Yeah,
Fuck that
sometimes,
guy.
yeah. Especially if you're not changing his mind anyway. Let the motherfucker
Yeah,
know
no, he's
a
already
shitbag.
fucked up 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not changing his mind.
Yeah.
And he's probably actually gonna go against Josh because of me.
Yeah. He's probably like, oh, well, watch this. Oh, you have no power and I have all the power. Check this out.
I'm going to disqualify your guy.
I'm sorry. I don't speak English, homie.
So those are my two weight cutting and top secret moves for black belts.
Yeah, and I think that weight cutting is terrible.
I hate it.
Fuck.
For me, it's
Yeah,
like
I hate
I do it now, but I still stand on the stance that 99% of people that do it shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like
'Cause they do it wrong.
Well, they do it wrong, and we train so much, so hard that you really do need to eat. You
Yes.
know? And so, of
Yes.
course, you can overeat while training.
But you can undereat, and then you won't lose
Yeah.
weight that way either because your body's holding all those calories.
and your body will like break down.
Yeah,
You know,
you get
just
injured.
like it's so easy. You'll get guys that struggle with injury, and you're like, man, they're so healthy. They really pay attention to what they eat, and then they start eating and they stop getting injured as
Yeah.
much. They gain like
Yeah,
5-10
yeah.
pounds.
Yeah.
And they stop getting injured so much.
See, like Dan and I are that one spot
Yeah,
where it's either
It's
The
either
worst spot,
unlimited
man. Yeah.
or it's 220.
or you're fighting a fatty at 400.
Yeah.
It's like- and is that really jiu-jitsu at that point?
Bro, listen. At medium heavyweight from middle, it might as well be unlimited for me. I'm fighting. I mean, not only are the guys at middle sometimes 7 feet tall, but everybody at medium heavyweight is 7 feet tall, and they're like, they look to be 240.
Yeah, like that one guy, Yango. Is that
Yeah,
Yango?
yeah.
Oh
so
my
big.
god,
Dude.
he was a middleweight.
How was that guy middleweight? He dwarfed you.
Bro, and we're talking after, he was really cool. We're talking after competing one time, and he's like, yeah, man, I usually do middle. I don't do medium heavy. I go, what did you weigh today? And he's like, oh, like 185. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? He's like, no, middles. He's like, I'm just doing middle because, I'm a little heavy.
Motherfucker.
like, are you kidding me
Because it's
right
188, right?
81,
81.
is middle, and then 95 is medium heavy.
heavy.
And so he was way underweight. And
Wow.
I have no idea. He
That
just
guy's-
walks around ripped, bro.
Yeah, ripped.
Cut
That's
up.
bullshit. That's straight up
And he's
bullshit.
strong.
He's so strong, so
man.
good.
Yeah, he's
I
very good.
really think and a guy that put it all together, he's probably the best guy I've competed against.
Yeah.
Man, he was so good.
I mean, he had a good run a couple years ago in the pans. He barely
did.
lost to Ronaldo, right? Was it?
Lost to Tynan.
Tynan, that's what it was.
It was
like,
in the finals,
oh,
taking
man.
his back.
It was,
at the end of the match.
right. It was so close.
was
That
so
was a
close.
good match. Yeah, he's tough. He's really tough. Yeah.
So we said we were going to try to sway the conversation a little more. We've touched on some military stuff.
Yeah.
But usually I'm trying to get you guys to tell me some good stories and hear some stuff from you guys.
Okay.
And so on that note, does anybody want to just take that away?
Take
on-
it away, man. I
Yeah.
don't know. Do you want to go first or?
It's up to you, man. I got all kinds of military
Yeah,
stories.
I mean, I could tell all kinds.
What kind of stories you want, like combat or just funny stuff?
Well,
or?
I just think that I guess more just for the listener. I kind of told people that this podcast would be like a gift to the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners that served, because I think that, there's just interest in that. And you and I even talked about that thought of, when I get to talk to you guys not on camera, it's very different than when I talk to somebody who served on a Zoom call.
Right.
And it's like, it's like, it's a lot more proper and it's not the same. And so I just thought that, anything that you guys think would connect to a listener, guys that are training jiu-jitsu that are, or guys and girls that are training jiu-jitsu that served.
Okay. So, all right. I got a funny story actually from Iraq.
All right.
So my background, I'm still serving, but I did 4 years active duty, 1st Infantry Division, infantry guy. Now I'm in the Missouri National Guard. I'm the scout sniper platoon sergeant, about to make 1st sergeant. And so it's Iraq, 2004. Samara, Iraq's where I was at. A couple different spots, but so we're taking contact, we're taking fire, and so I'm a team leader, which means I have 3 guys underneath me, and we're trying to go from one building to the other across this little alleyway, and we're getting lit up. I'm like, all right, let's do some suppressive fire, and we'll get some guys running across. So I get out the door, I lay down some suppressive fire, and my my grenadier runs across, gets far side security. Inside the little compound. So Iraq houses they're all built the same. You got the house, and then you have a courtyard around it with these like 6 foot, 7 foot tall walls, maybe 8 foot tall walls. And so it's like a castle almost.
Yeah, a little compound.
Yeah, a little compound. Oh, Afghanistan's the same way, right?
Same thing. Yeah, more mud hut, but
yeah, they do mud. Like in Iraq, it's more like brick, and it's still mud, but it's like harder because of the sun or something. They're wild. Like they're bulletproof. They're fucking tank proof.
Really?
So, so he gets far side security. I send my rifleman over. They're both on the other side of the compound. Then my saw gunner was going to cover me so I can run across. And it's my best friend, one of my best friends, Chris Thrasher, fucking guy from Mississippi. And so my eye covered me, Chris. So he's like, I got you. So I like start running out, and he comes around the corner with the saw, and it goes click. And I just hear him laughing. But the thing is, he just starts laughing at me. He's just like,
I mean, what the fuck else are you going to do?
I'm getting shot. I'm like, you motherfucker. I get to the other side.
Yeah.
I'm like, you son of a, but it's like, that's infantry shit, right? He just like,
what the fuck else you going to do?
Laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
figure it out, motherfucker.
Sorry. Like, I hope you get fucking shot. You're coming next, bitch.
Yeah, you have to have a very, dark sense of humor to live in that world.
You do, yeah.
And again, I think same thing with a lot of jiu-jitsu, at least there's some of the cultures at our gyms is, you laugh about fucking each other up and stuff like that. It's the same thing, man. If you don't have that extremely dark sense of humor, you couldn't survive in that world, man.
Right,
you see too much and deal with too much shit to have any other. So people getting fucking killed and people getting fucked up is hilarious in that that realm, because that's just how the fuck it is.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. There's some.
Oh yeah,
man. You just like, man, some just wild stuff you see over there.
Yeah,
and you're just like.
Well,
wild.
And especially in Afghanistan, there's a lot of inbreeding.
Oh yeah,
and
Iraq's the same way.
You see some interesting fucking characters, man. And again, just on the topic of funny shit. So, like you said with your background. So my background is I did about 4 years in the military. I did 4 years in the military. I was in the 82nd Airborne Infantry. Did a couple deployments, Iraq and Afghanistan, and then I got out. Swore I'd never go back over there again. And my dad actually got on with a company called Blackwater and got me a recruiter's information, and that's how I started. And then I contracted from 08 to 2019 for 3 months on, 1 month off. I was basically gone for 9 months of every year through that time. I used to joke and say that I lived in Kabul or lived in Afghanistan and vacationed in St. Louis, but looking back on it, I legitimately did. And so that just becomes the world that you're fucking used to, man. Yeah. And fucking so anyway, so there's an extreme amount of inbreeding there, and extreme amount of different types of people because of that. And you'll have motherfucker. I told the story last night about the little dude. He had no I don't know if this should go on the podcast.
No, you should. It's so fucking funny. It's so funny.
So he had no lower half of his body, no legs, no nothing. And I don't think it was something like he got him blown off or anything like that. I truly, because of all the inbreeding, I think that shit just happens. And so we're getting out of the vehicle, and this is what's in like Kabul's equivalent to what the green zone is in Iraq. And so ISAF HQ is there, the embassy, all that's there. And I get out of the vehicle, and like a GPS cover falls out of the vehicle. And all of a sudden, I see this fucking hand grab that motherfucker and disappear. And I look over, and this motherfucker's on a little skateboard that he rigged up, and he's got a sandal on his fucking hand, man. And he's just getting it with this fucking GPS cover, dude. And I'm trying to fucking run after his little motherfucking ass, and I finally catch him, and that's just one of a million fucking things.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, and that isn't even out of the norm. Like that's not like oh wow, I can't believe that happened.
Very
that's
typical.
Like oh yeah, man, that's homeboy.
Very
He'll
typical.
steal your shit if you aren't if you're not quick about it, man.
And he'll ride off into the sunset.
Into the sunset, not giving a fuck, fucking flipping you
and
off with his other
try to
hand.
sell it to you the next day.
Yeah,
like,
100%,
I found this GPS cover.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, it's a different fucking world over there, man.
Dude, yeah.
All right, this is a terrible topic. What if he did jujitsu? What would be?
It would be
man, him.
Yeah.
He would darce you to
You
death.
can't.
Oh, yeah,
dude.
he darts the shit out of
You can't foot sweep him.
No, dude. He
And
would
I
ankle
guarantee-
pick darce everybody.
Yeah.
I guarantee that grip and that fucking forearm strength is super
and then
strong.
you also got to think like what weight class would he be in? His upper body's probably
Bryce,
jacked.
you would be screwed if this dude's beefy on top.
Dude.
Yeah, Bryce is thinking he's a rooster.
He's a rooster weight with the upper body of a super heavy.
Yeah, you're in
You're
trouble.
fucking done.
You're in trouble.
You're
man.
done.
You're in trouble. Yeah, and again, that's just the norm, man. And you have, you know, we used to live down this road, and there was a lot of beggars. We called it Beggars Alley. And in Kabul, a lot of times, or Afghanistan in general, you're riding down the roads, and like he said, there's compounds on either side.
Yeah.
So you have walls on either side of you, and then you'll have these little alleyways. And we're rolling down the street, and it had just started to get dark. And all of a sudden, this motherfucker comes out. So we're driving, and about 50 feet up the road, there's an alleyway, and this motherfucker comes sprinting out on all fours. So he has that. Bro, it was like out of a fucking horror movie, man. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, dude.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And because he has that, again, I think it's from all the inbreeding, but that where he's basically humped over, where, he has his feet.
It looks like a dog.
Dude, and he motherfucking galloped. Like, he came out, that motherfucker, and then just stopped in the middle of the fucking road and just stared at us, bro.
That's scary as shit.
Bro, it was freaky as fuck. But it ultimately was just some poor little boy that was all fucked up. But, dude.
Bro. Well, it's just like the story I was telling last night with the mentally challenged people.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
That was fucked up.
Yeah.
So we get some intel from this neighborhood lady. She's like, oh, there's some really bad dudes or terrorists. They call them Alibaba. So, like the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Uh-huh. So, like, your hobby is like terrorists, and Alibaba is like, criminals. Like, there's Alibaba over there. I'm like, okay, well, fuck, let's go hit this house tonight. We'll come back. And so we're whenever you're hitting a house, you have your main target, and then you do what we call like an inner and outer cordon. The inner cordon like does security facing towards that building, make sure nobody's like squirters coming in and out, and then outer cordon protects you from anybody coming in.
Okay.
And so my team my squad is like the raid team, and so the courtyard, right? They have this big metal door, and if you kick it, it's loud as fuck. So it's like everybody knows you're coming. So like, all right, we're gonna just throw a dude over the wall. So we threw a dude over the wall, and he undoes the courtyard door where they used to drive their cars in and stuff. And I'm the first dude through that door, and I come in. I have my tack light, my flashlight on my M4, and I bring it up, and I see this dude in like a big puffy coat. At the time, like suicide vests were like super popular. I'm like, oh, fuck, suicide bomber. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, shit. So I get up, and I'm about to drop this guy, and he runs back inside the house, and so we start chasing after him. And my squad leader, he got out in front of me and tried to punch the guy, because at this time, I'm like, okay, it's not a suicide vest because he's running away. Like, he would have detonated on like, he would let us come to him and detonated. So, like, we didn't know if he was going to go in there, get a gun or something like that. So he tries to punch him, misses, falls into the refrigerator head first. Yeah. And I'm right behind him, and like he runs into a spot, and he's cornered. I'm like, oh yeah, I got this guy. So as soon as he turns around, I butt stroke him. So with the back of my rifle, I hit him in the face and drop him. Come to find out, he's mentally challenged.
Oh, no.
But it gets worse. It gets worse.
Oh, no.
It gets worse. So this is the type of shit you have to deal with in Iraq and Afghanistan too.
Oh, yeah.
So the rest of my team goes up onto the rooftop. My other guys, and I hear one of my ghetto ass soldiers, Marquez, he's just ghetto. He's like, "Hey Sanders, you gotta come up here, bro." So I'm like, what the fuck? So I go upstairs. He's like, "These dudes are throwing shit at us, like literal shit." I'm like, "What the fuck?" And so I get up there, like, so this guy who owned the house, he had 3 brothers. 2 of them were chained to the roof in chicken coops, and like, it might have been like 2 feet tall, and they're just throwing their own feces at my guys. So come to find out, this lady who gave us this intel was pissed off because those mentally challenged guys were like biting and beating the shit out of her kids. So she wanted us to go there and like fucking kill these guys.
Oh my
God.
God.
That happens a lot.
It happens
man.
all the time.
Yeah, where you get used to settle beefs.
Oh, all the time.
You know, and they'll claim someone's a terrorist or they've done this or that so that you go fucking hit the house, and then it turns out that that's not true at all. So that's why you got to really vet that information. You know, we learned after a while you have to really vet that information.
But even like when I was there in Iraq, we didn't have an interpreter at the time. Like
our
Terp
that's a whole other fucking animal.
Our Terp got smoked. So our first one ran off. Like they killed his whole family, so he just stopped. Our other Terp got smoked while he was on mission with us, and so we had nobody. I had no interpreter for
that's rough, man.
3 or 4 months. no interpreter, so we're just kind of like,
What are we doing?
figuring and this lady, she spoke English. She was Kurdish, so she's from Kurdistan, the region, and so she was Kurd, so she spoke some English, and she was telling us like these guys were bad guys. I'm like, oh, cool, man. And so we thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
But that was a different time.
Yeah,
that was
exactly
early in the
right.
war. It was like anything. It was the rules of engagement were whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it was a whole different time.
Yeah, and again, for anyone that is non-military and thinks that we're assholes by some of the stuff we say, because life is so harsh. I mean, your friends are getting smoked. You're seeing innocent children get killed, like things that would really fuck somebody up. If you don't put a fucked up spin on that world, you will not
Man, you're gonna be
survive.
depressed, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I got into contracting, and that first year of contracting, it was just about 15 dudes got killed in that 1 year. And so if you don't process that in a, you have to think of that in a certain way, or you just won't make it, man.
Yeah.
And we had about I would say, I'm sure someone could correct me on this, but at least a 93% contact rate every time we went out, we were getting hit. And
Likewise, we'd always getting fucking every day. We getting some sort of tick,
Yeah.
troops in contact
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah, we were getting hit constantly. So, and even that stuff you got to turn into funny fucking jokes. Like I've told you the story. I think last time we were together, I told the story about when my window took that 6-round burst, and all of a sudden I felt glass fall on me. And at the end of the day, it's everybody calls that stuff bulletproof. It's not bulletproof, but it should be damn near more bullet resistant than that. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I felt this fucking glass fall on me, and it turns out that a round must have hit like right at where the edge of the window was, and it met the frame of the vehicle itself, and it went into the vehicle and stopped about an inch from my head. I actually dug it out of the fucking vehicle and kept it. I still have it at home.
Were you wearing a soft cap?
I was wearing a fucking baseball cap because I had just started contracting.
Yeah.
I'm too cool for
Being
a fucking
cool.
helmet,
Nah,
man.
man, yeah.
Oh yeah, man. I'm a contractor
change
now.
after that?
Oh, 100%. I fucking changed after that because I would have been fucking done.
you'd been
man.
toast.
That would have fucking
crazy.
ended my
Domed.
fucking
Yeah.
world,
Yeah,
man.
you've been domed for sure.
And so from that moment forward, I started wearing a helmet. At least when we were out. So Highway 1 is one of the most dangerous highways or roads in Afghanistan. And so anytime we were out on a long distance mission, I always had to change to the helmet, man. But yeah, you become a contractor and you just think, oh, I'm too fucking cool for that,
Especially coming from the infantry world, like line
That's
infantry.
exactly right. Yeah. So, and specifically, like, I came from that world. I was in the regular Army, 82nd Airborne Infantry, young kids, and I got thrown into an element where it was all a bunch of, retired Delta guys, retired Special Forces, Navy SEALs. They were all grown-ass fucking men. And my 22-year-old punk ass just got out of the Army, only 82nd Airborne. In their eyes, that don't mean shit. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get through that. And it was a situation of either grow the fuck up or get the fuck out of here. And so that I attribute them, as to why I was able to. Because even after I got out of the Army, man, I was still a fucking punk, man.
Yeah.
I was only 22 years old. I would say almost worse because I had just got back from Afghanistan, like he said, with getting out of the Army. So I got stop lost. And so when you get stop loss, so when you sign up for a total of 8 years. Yep. And whatever that is going to be active, and the rest is going to be what's called an inactive reserve. They don't tell you that shit when you sign up. I had no clue.
Freaking Nick,
I know.
Freaking Nick doesn't
Yeah,
let you
I'm
know
telling you,
that.
that's why I said
like, hey,
I
bro.
could never be a recruiter, man.
I
That's
was just
the
telling him,
fuck-
hey man,
it's
just
like
quit.
the worst.
Just quit
Yeah,
anytime you want.
that's
Just
right. Oh, yeah, no
tell your
big deal.
commander, like,
No
fuck it,
big deal,
I
man.
quit. I'm putting in my resignation.
Recruiting is truly like the worst type of salesmanship on the planet. Like
I hated it.
But yeah, so you have these extra years. So because of that, it was during the surge that Bush did right before he got out in 07. So we all got stop loss to go to Afghanistan. And so when I got out, I literally got out and was out of the Army within a month. And
Yeah,
so
they don't help you out at all.
Yeah, at all. They didn't do shit. But yeah, so then I got straight into contracting, and it was a very eye-opening experience for me. It was very much more small teams, guys that have been doing this shit forever, and I was really fortunate for that. I met a lot of good motherfuckers.
Yeah, I think I would have
that time.
gotten out if I hadn't gotten into the scout sniper platoon.
Yeah.
Because it's similar to that. It's just like, hey,
Yeah, 'cause-
whatever kit you want, your big boy. In the Army call them big boy rules, where it's
Yeah.
like, hey man, like do what you can do, like what that your rank can afford. So if you think that's a good decision, and you can articulate to me why you're doing it, all right, man,
That's
let's do
exactly
it. It's
right.
like it's not going to be me micromanaging you because like you're a grown ass man.
And you can't do that in the conventional army.
can't.
As soon as you get anything where there's more people, you have to set your standard to the lowest common denominator because there's always going to be a fuck up.
Yeah.
There's fuck ups in small units too, but it gets dealt with a lot easier.
Yeah, and you can like especially platoon like myself or like you get in a Ranger battalion or special forces, all that other stuff. Like with me, I have a tryout to get into my platoon, and then if you fuck up, I'm like, hey, you're gone. I send you back to the line, and that's your punishment. It's like, hey, come back in a year when you're ready to be a part of this platoon. Otherwise, like, I don't need you. And that's the good thing about being a specialty platoon. You don't have to deal with the lowest common denominator. You're just like, hey, fucking get lost, dude. See you later.
Same thing with when I started contracting. That's why it was either grow the fuck up or get the fuck out of here because they wouldn't have dealt with that shit. And again, they already looked at me like a young kid who was only from the 82nd Airborne, and they weren't dicks about it. That's just, they they're not them, and I could never be them. Now, I was very fortunate to be around some of the baddest motherfuckers that I've ever met in my life, and that's why I always say that my favorite type of person, because this is how every single one of them was, is they were the most kind, genuine individual that will slit your motherfucking throat and not think a single thing about it.
Ham
dude.
sandwich while they're doing it.
And fucking smile while they do it, and then go right back to being a kind, genuine person to the old lady. You know what I mean? Like that's my favorite type of motherfucker, and I was very lucky.
So just kind of maybe a little backtrack on what we were talking about. So you are 20, young 20s.
Yeah, 22.
There are people every single day actively trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about at night when you go to bed? Like, is that stressful?
Oh,
What
yeah.
are you, when
Dude.
things are calm at whatever point, if they ever are actually calm?
Man, so like I don't know if this was for me. Like car bombs were huge in Iraq, so I would try to like get I listened to the same CD every night, the same like 8 tracks, just like it would calm me down. It's kind of my way of falling asleep. OAR is the band. Yeah. OAR is Anytime Now is their CD, but their first one, fuck like that. I know every word of every song because I listened to it for probably 6 months straight. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I did that is because like I want to fall asleep. So if I do get blown up, I'm sleeping. I don't have to worry about it. I'm dead. Cool. But the biggest thing I always like freaked me out was like, okay, if they drive a car bomb in this bitch, am I in a safe spot that I can like, if it does blow up, where is it going to blow up? And am I going to be able to get out of this building and like get into the fight, or am I likely to die? Because I was in a car bombing, so that's how I got wounded. So I was sleeping, and killed 5 guys and wounded 19. And so ever since that point, and that was like 5 months into my deployment, and I stayed another 7 months there, and so like that was my biggest fear. Was like, okay, if something were to pop off, or even like a mortar round, like a 120, a big fucking mortar round coming through the roof, am I in a good spot where I'm like, is it gonna blow up on top of me? So I would think this shit, and man, it's hard to fall asleep some nights.
I think that's why so many veterans have such a hard time transitioning out, and because you don't know how to turn that mindset off.
Yeah.
You don't know how to turn off the living in a constant state of hypervigilance.
Yeah.
And so you can't turn it off in civilian life. And so that's why I think so many guys have issues because they don't find outlets for that.
And they self-medicate, they start drinking, doing drugs, all these other things to try like dull that noise, or like just I'm going to do enough alcohol to pass the fuck out so I can get some sleep.
And again, for me personally, that's when it hit me the most, is after I got out. When I was in, it falls back to that same thing we were talking about, where that dark sense of humor and this also mindset of, well, that ain't going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to get fucking smoked. Like, that can't happen
Until
to me.
it almost happens. Like for me, it did happen. I'm like, oh shit, I'm not. Because I'm sure you thought you were invincible.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I thought it was King
until
Kong.
it fucking happens.
I thought it was King Kong Ding Dong, man. I thought it was a fucking man. Just no care in the world, charging into firefighters, kicking open doors in houses, like trying to like shoot dudes in the fucking head and stuff. Like, I didn't give a shit. And then I got blown up. And
then you realize.
And then I see 5 of my friends dead, 19 other guys wounded. I'm like, oh man, like that. If I was in the other room, I would have been dead.
Yeah.
And so like when I got blown up, I actually so my buddies, Sergeant Shepard's his name. He's the one who like woke us up as a car bomb came into the compound. And so I like sat up and I saw the car So it was maybe 25 feet away from me, and I just saw the headlights, and my first thought was like, "Fuck, I'm dead."
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I thought. It's like I'm dead. And then it blew up.
That's such a real feeling, man.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No,
That's such a that I think there's very few times in most people's lives that they have that they say to themselves like, this is it. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Even in a lot of my time in Afghanistan, things were so crazy. I didn't necessarily think that. I've only had that true feeling once, and it was when Walt got killed.
Right.
And that whole went down, and I remember there was a lag there for a minute, and I had that legitimate thought of, motherfucker, this is it. Like, I got nowhere to go. I don't know how many of them there are, and I got my fucking pistol. That's all I got, and one motherfucking mag, man, because it was, and I could tell the story here in a second after he's done, but that it was worst case scenario, and it was that time, man, and that's such a real feeling to have, man, like that brief second of just accepting that, hey, man, this is it. I'm about to die.
But like the difference, like I think for guys like us is like I had that feeling. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna die. But if I survive this, I'm fighting.
Yeah,
like,
damn right.
And I'm gonna fight everything I can not to die. Like,
Well, yeah.
you know,
you don't accept that.
You don't accept
feeling.
defeat.
You don't let that feeling overcome you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, that's a feeling, and that is what it is. But now I got to do.
Yeah.
And I got shit to do, and you just go into fucking
What you're trained to- what you're trained to do.
You just go into fucking getting it, and you don't. Then that thought goes away. Like you said, it's in those lulls that shit can potentially take over, and you have to fight that fucking
fight it.
voice
Yeah.
of where that I think with most people that aren't made for that world, that voice would win, and that voice would take over, and you have to.
Or if you're not trained too. So
Yeah, or if you're not trained.
This was a good thing. I was talking to Drew, one of the other black belts that revived. He's a retired Marine major. I was like, hey, man. And I was like, we were talking about training, and I was like, man, the people who die the most on the battlefield are untrained.
Yeah.
Because they get those thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not prepared for all that shit. Like, that's all we did in our world was just train to fight and kill.
Well, and it's why that life is so harsh,
It is.
and why everybody is so. Well, it's what we were talking about last night and joking around. People are fucking evil to you. Your friends are fucking evil to you. If you show any sign of weakness, man, it's like embedded in your brain to just attack that weakness. And, you know, if like, again, we were talking about how sick call is specifically put, it has to be, it's being specifically put at the time of PT.
Yeah, sick call is when you feel sick, you go to the medics.
Yeah, or
and
if
they
you
can
got an
assess you.
injury
Yeah.
or anything like that, not even just being sick, but any type of injury. And they do it during fucking PT, physical training. They do that because they don't want you to fucking go.
Yeah.
And so if you go, the immediate reaction of everyone else is, you fucking pussy, you fucking bitch, you just want to get out of PT, you little fucking bitch. And again, that world sounds fucking harsh, but if it isn't that way, you wouldn't be ready for those moments.
And it's not for everybody. That world
It's
is
not,
not
no.
for, you have to be a
It's
particular person to be like okay with that
Yeah,
shit.
but again, to that point, counter to that point, I guess I should say, is like those people would also die for you.
Oh,
You know what I
100%,
mean? Like we're all very harsh on each other, but at the same time, when the shit gets real, those motherfuckers will die for you.
Like my buddy laughing at me.
Exactly.
Like,
and he's
dickhead.
laughing,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
if I would have got hit, he would have been fucking dragging me out.
He would have put his life in harm's way to save Nick,
absolutely.
because that's just how it is. But that's just that fucking world, man.
Yeah, you got to be harsh on it.
You have to.
You gotta,
it's the only way you survive that world.
Yeah, because it's not a anything but a harsh world.
Yeah.
Like the infantry lifestyle, combat, firefights, all that stuff. That's just a harsh lifestyle.
And again, I keep going back to it, but I think that's part of why it makes it so tough for guys to get out, is because now you're back into this soft world and you don't have that there and you feel out of place. The best way I've always told people is, no matter how many people you have around me, like I have such an incredible support system. My wife is she's my best friend in the whole world, man. And she totally understands and she's there for me, but she doesn't get it. And it's not her fault. She just doesn't get it. And so that's what I tell people, is the best way to put it is, it's like being surrounded by a bunch of good people, but you're still on an island all by yourself. And there's not many people that can relate. But again, that's what makes jiu-jitsu so great, is you might not have that relation, but you get that sense of community
For sure.
that you don't,
Well, and the other thing too, like civilians, they don't understand. Like my buddy,
my buddy
Chris, I was in the guard with him. He was 10th Mountain guy. He has some wild stories from Afghanistan. Like he got he got fucking left behind.
Damn.
Dude, like he was suppressed by a Dishka actually, and he was just left there. Just
Dishka is like it's their version of a 50 cal. Big fucking round.
Machine gun.
Yeah, big fucking.
But anyway,
round.
he's like, man, I get out to the civilian world. He's like, in the Army, you know your lane. You stay in that fucking
right.
lane. You got civilians swerving all over
That's
the fucking
right.
highway. They don't know their lane.
That's right.
And it's like, and then I'm the asshole for telling that civilian, hey, get in your fucking lane, buddy.
Yeah.
And so that was like, that's the equivalent of getting out. It's like, man, I know what I like in the Army. Another great saying too is like, you ever watch Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah,
you know, when Brooks gets out, he was a made man inside. He was
You're
the guy.
institutionalized.
You're institutionalized. In the Army, if you're a sergeant or anything like that, you are a made, even the E4, we call it the E4 Mafia.
Yeah.
If you're a senior E4, you're a made man.
Yeah.
Like
You're
you are
somebody.
You are somebody.
Yeah.
And then when you got in the civilian world, all of a sudden you're nobody.
No one
Nobody
gives a fuck.
Nobody gives a fuck about you.
And not that they should. Not that, you know what I mean? And that's an unfortunate mindset that some people do get into is the world owes me something. And they don't at all. No one fucking owes you shit. Everybody's got their own shit going on. No one owes you anything. But to go from being somebody and being part of something that meant something to you and to not, and to just be another motherfucker on the street, I think that's one of the hardest things.
And then the other guys too, like, you know, you got guys who've seen a lot of combat. Like some of these dudes get like fucking like 3 or 4 Purple Hearts.
Yeah.
They've been like 5 combat deployments. Fucking super studs, amazing human beings, and they get out in the world, and these civilians are just like, man, I don't give a fuck about
one
you.
cares.
Like this guy literally laid his life on the line for our freedom, so to speak, or whatever it might be. But you're just another dude.
Yeah.
And like you're just another.
And
dude
the
in
acceptance
crowd.
of that is tough.
It's hard to deal with.
It's a tough acceptance to have.
Do you remember getting out and going, oh wow, I'm gonna have to accept this?
Man, when I was, I think I was naive. I was 22 when I got out too. I was a fucking dumbass as well. I was naive. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get on like they're gonna respect me because I'm a combat vet. I'm gonna become a cop. That was my goal. Get all this blah blah blah. I was just another dude.
Yeah.
Just another fucking guy. Nobody gave a shit about me. And that was, I think, when I went to college. That was like as soon as I got out of the Army, I got out in August. I started my first semester in January to get my criminal justice degree, and it was only a couple months later. That was my reality. It was like, hey, nobody gives a fuck about you. Nobody gives 2 shits. And honestly, I was the type of guy too where I never even told anybody. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And there were some guys I used to train with back when I first got here in St. Louis. I didn't have Purple Heart plates on my car at the time, all that shit, like for years. And I rolled up with like Purple Heart plates. I finally got them. And these guys, like straight up, they're like, I didn't even know you were in the Army. Like I didn't know you were an Army guy. I didn't know you were like a combat vet and you have a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
I just knew right off the bat, out of the gate. I was like, these people don't give a fuck about what I did. I'm in a different lifestyle too. Like I'm not in the Army anymore. Like I got out for a reason. I want to have a different career. And one of my Ranger buddies, he was in 2nd Bat, and he and I talk about like why we feel like we're so well adjusted to the world. It's because a lot of guys can't get over the fact that they're not in the Army anymore.
Yeah.
And that was like their whole identity. And he and I both got out, and you know, it's like, man, I'm not that anymore. It was a part of my life. It was a job I did. I joined under the right reasons. Like I joined after 9/11. I went to go kill fucking bad guys. I did that job, and now I'm out and it's done. Now it's a whole new life I have to get into. And a lot of guys just can't get over that fact that they're not in that life anymore.
Yeah, they can't. For me, it was a little different because I was out for not very long and then got right into contracting. And so that contracting was a continuation of that world, a much better continuation of that
Yeah,
world.
but you're still doing that shit.
But you're still living that life. And so for me, when I got done, I was 34 years old. And so it was... I had the acceptance right away, but it still never got easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was. I know I don't mean shit. Anything I've done means nothing. And I think for me too, what made it difficult is I made a name for myself in that world. Like I that was 15, 16 years of my life and working through, like we talked about, being that young fucking punk and trying to get those guys to accept me. And I always say, anytime I've been asked in interviews before, like what my greatest accomplishment or what means the most to me. And what means the most to me is getting guys like them, like the guy named Dick Davis, Walt Fisher, my best friend that got killed, Maddie, all these guys that I look looked up to and idolized. To get them to accept me and look at me as a brother meant, that's the greatest accomplishment I could have had. But so it was a tougher, like it was harder for me because it was all it's all I knew as an adult. Like I went from 18-year-old child to that in the course of that time frame. So I still struggle with it, you know what I mean? And I still struggle with being happy with my job and feeling fulfilled and things like that. But again, that's why I love jiu-jitsu so much. And I'm also very fortunate because I'm very lucky with my wife and my son. They're my two favorite people on the planet. So I also got very lucky with that. And that's why I don't let it overcome me is, at the end of the day, because I just got hit up about going back to Syria and doing something over there. And it was not going to be it's a not so great area. Syria is not a great place. But it was great money. And I really, that part of me that still misses that life really wanted to go back. But it just isn't worth it.
I tried to recruit him. I was trying to recruit him when Ukraine first kicked off.
Yeah.
I was trying to recruit him because I had a contact who was recruiting me to go over there. He's one of my friends I was in school with. He's a sniper and all this stuff. He was trying to recruit me and a couple other guys. It was like $3,000 a day.
Yeah,
or
it was
like
stupid money.
It was stupid money.
Yeah.
To do like recovery stuff, like diplomat recovery or HVT recovery, and highly dangerous. I was trying to get Dan. I was like, "Hey, bro, what do you think? We just go over there for like 30 days, man. We got like fucking $90K.
Yeah.
And then we're done. And
it's tough, man.
It is.
It's tough.
Or we were talking too about doing that border.
The
border contract
thing. Yeah, and I get, because I came out of that contracting world, I get reached out to a lot about that stuff. And for me, man, it just, as much as it kills me. Now, I always jokingly say, like, my optimal world is I can live over there, do all that stuff, and teleport home every fucking night and be with my family.
That'd be awesome.
If I could live that world, that was my favorite fucking world. Because I'm not really meant for this world anymore, man. It just isn't.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time.
I spent a lot. Of that 15-year period, 9 of those years were spent in those countries, not back and forth, but 9. I mean, so I was only in the United States 6 of those 15 years. And so that was my world. That was my home. You know, I mean, like I said, I used to always joke about it, but I really did live there. I mean, and I stayed in hotels out in town. We'd stay at hotels in Kandahar that got blown up the next fucking day after we were there. Like I lived, when you're there in the military, you're on a base, you go conduct your missions, hit houses, do your thing, and then you come back. So you're isolated from the regular world for the most part. There, I lived out in the world. I lived at a house out in town, you know what I mean? And so that place became my fucking home. And it just, like we talked about, and turning that off, 15 years of that, turning that off is almost impossible. Yeah. But again, for me, is I can't let my son grow up without a dad because I was too stupid to not, and I was too selfish that I felt that me wanting to be back and be that dude again was more important than my son and my family. And so, because the problem with that world too is it always seems like when you're about to be done or you're going home on
another
vacation,
big contract comes out.
Another big thing, that last thing is always the thing that gets you fucking smoked.
Yep.
You know, again, I know he's heard me talk about it too many times. I probably get on people's nerves, but it's one of the events that fucked up my head the most, is my best friend getting killed. And he was supposed to be done, man. He was only his wife's company had taken off. They were doing incredible, and he only stayed there so that we didn't have to be a man down. And he got fucking smoked. We got ambushed that night, and he got fucking killed, man.
Yeah,
and so you hear that story so often. It's the last deployment, it's the last this, or even as bad as someone going home on vacation. One of the worst instances I've seen of someone getting ready to leave. So this was back when I was in the Army. We had these National Guard medics, specifically a National Guard doctor, go out with us. And I don't know why they had to come with us, but his whole unit went home and they stayed just to come with us. And so they were out there with us for about 2 weeks. And then finally they were able to come, their unit called and they were going to head back down. And I remember we all, you start to get close in that time period, even in the 2 weeks when you're in, small groups of people. And so we started to get to know them and we're all saying bye and good luck. It's going to be great that you're going home. They drove 800 meters down the road and hit a fucking IED and all died. Yeah, all of them fucking died, man.
And like, there's another story too. I don't know, my memory's kind of fuzzy on this one, but wasn't there some guys going out on R&R and their Chinook got shot down in Afghanistan?
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I know. I mean, there's been multiple times of fucking Chinooks getting shot down. I don't know about that one specifically, but that shit happens all the fucking time, man. And you can call it whatever you want, but there's some sort of juju there that just got to be careful.
I feel like too. So, like we were doing left seat ride, right seat ride with when a unit comes in to replace you, you have to train them, and then so you're the lead on the missions, and then after a certain amount of time, they take the lead and you just kind of advise. And so I was stuck behind for some of that. And I don't know if it's like maybe complacency.
Well, I think that is a part of it.
Yeah.
I think a huge part of it is like I definitely bet you can track that to most situations is because we call it dropping your pack. Once you've dropped your pack,
your mind shuts off.
Your mind shuts off. I think, again, going back to being in that world, you have to. I'm a very mindset-oriented person, and I think a lot of us are. And so as soon as you think you're going home, and we call it drop your pack, you can't. Getting back on and staying is hard.
It's hard to do.
It's hard. So I guarantee that's a massive part of it. I think other things, potentially come into play there, but 100%.
So like my very last firefight I was ever in, we're taking some pretty good fire, some RPGs. It's a rocket propelled grenade, small arms. We were on top of a roof in Iraq, and I was eating an MRE when they shot at us. I just kept eating. I'm like, fuck this, man. I'm gonna finish this fucking meal before I start shooting back. Yeah. I looked at my guys. You guys got this? Like, yeah. And I just fucking sat there and ate until I was done, because I'm not gonna let these assholes interrupt my meal. That was my very last firefight I ever got into.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Very last one.
Yeah, man. It's it's an interesting mindset that you got to have, and it's a rough fucking world. I brought up earlier, Walt getting killed, man. That was. That was kind of the beginning of the end of that world for me. That would happen in 2015, January 29th of 2015. It was what's called a green on blue. So a green on blue is when an Afghan soldier, green is the Afghans, blue is U.S. or coalition forces. And so a green on blue is when one of them, an Afghan National Army guy, someone that's supposed to be a good guy, attacks one of us. And so, we were all standing there. We were at a hangar on the Afghan side of the Kabul International Airport. They call it Kia. And we were on the Afghan side, and he was supposed to be there. He's supposed to be there every night as a guard because, again, it's their base. And we're hanging outside the hangar, and we were bullshitting. My buddies were getting ready to go home, go back to the base. We had just showed up to come on. And at that time, this fucking douche made a rule that all contractors couldn't keep their rifles with them on base.
Was that the Marcel?
It was. I think it was. And so it was a douche rule, and it had just gotten implemented, and so we had to keep our rifles in the office. So that's why I said earlier, all I had on me was my pistol, and we're all standing there bullshitting. Me and Brad go to walk away, and as we're walking away, all of a sudden I start hearing just loud cracking, and I'll be honest, I had it happened so fast it didn't process properly. But then I remember seeing Brad fucking hit the deck, and so I just went with him and jumped down, still not fully understanding what the hell was going on. And so we're inside of a hangar, and so the big hangar, the big opening to the hangar, the big hangar doors here, there's a plane in it like this. We go around to get to the back side of the plane, and this guy we didn't know it at the time. It was one dude, this guy who was at that guard shack, and he had killed Walt and Matt and and them. And so we didn't know this at the time anyway. And so he comes around the front. Brad and them start opening up on each other. Brad misses. He hits Brad, shoots Brad in the elbow, and what I come to find out later, in the chest. But I didn't know. All I saw was Brad's elbow explode because he had the guy had armor-piercing rounds. It was an M16, so it's 5.56 rounds, but they're a very high velocity and armor-piercing rounds. Obviously, you know, the
steel core penetrator.
The steel core penetrator. Yeah. And so anyway, so I saw Brad's elbow explode, and that's what I saw. The guy ends up coming around the side of the plane, and we basically get into one of us is going to kill the other one first type of situation. I'm kind of behind a box at this time, and I come out on one knee behind it, and he's standing there, and we're, I would say, about 20 to 25 meters away from each other inside this hangar. And we just fucking open up and see who wins. And I was able to shoot him twice in the stomach, and then he fell, and I got him once in the fucking mouth. And when he fell back, he was still twitching. And so I ultimately unloaded the rest of my magazine into him because I didn't know. You know, I couldn't tell if he was trying to get back up. But that was my only fucking magazine. So I ended up having to get a magazine from Brad. And you know, again, I joke about this shit because it's the only way you can. But I remember poor Brad was like trying to get that motherfucker out and couldn't because his elbow's fucking blown the fuck off. And then again, this whole time, keeping in mind that he was shot in the chest that I did not know about. And so he finally gets me his mag, and we go up to fucking clear it, and it ended up luckily just being that one dude. But because he was so close, and he came out basically from behind these Connex boxes that were there, and we found out later he was being texted like step by step what to do. And so he came up, and it was just by fucking happenstance that he didn't open up 10 seconds earlier, because he would have killed all of us. We never would have saw it coming. And so, yeah, he ended up killing them. And, you know, my best friend Walt got killed. And I remember, you know, seeing him shot in the face. And that's an image you can't ever, like, any memory that I have of Walt is any even positive memory, I can only see him shot in the face. And so, again, it goes back to why we have such a fucked up mindset, is because you have to. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so yeah, that I don't know where I was going on with that rambling of that story, but that was the last firefight that I had been in, and that was also the time when bringing it back to that moment of like, oh man, I'm dead. Like I'm fucked. Yeah, like, cause I didn't know how many of them there were. I couldn't see shit because the plane was in the way, and I'm trying to look under it and see so that we can eventually start to maneuver around and figure out what the fuck we're gonna do. But at the end of the day, I was backed up to a Connex, and again, all I had was my pistol and my fucking, I jokingly say this, and I'm sure some people are going to pick this apart if they got any, military background, but I fucking hit the fucking ground so hard, my fucking go bag fell off, and that had the rest of my fucking mags in it. And again, my rifle's upstairs because we didn't have the fucking rifles. And so that shit was in the middle of the fucking hangar, and I'm trying to look to maneuver, and ultimately, luckily he finally came around and we were able to take care of him. But that it was a fucking gnarly night. And I always like to say there's an instance that I won't say the unit's name, so it ultimately doesn't matter. But once that happened, I had called to get QRF, your quick reaction force, to come help us. And so I call, because all we had, again, when you're a contractor, you have very to little. It's not like we had radio communication with them. We didn't have anything. And so I call on a fucking, Afghan cell phone back to the TOC, and I'm telling them, we got guys down. We need someone over here quick. We need QRF. And the motherfucker tells me that I need to calm down and hangs up on me.
Oh
yeah,
my
gosh.
Some
to
pogue.
this day, I wish I
pogue.
could find that motherfucker.
It was some pogue.
Oh, 100% it was some
So
pogue.
if you don't know what a pogue is what infantry guys call non-infantry people, person other than grunt.
Yeah.
Pogue.
It's a derogatory term.
We hate them. We hate them. They're the worst. I fucking
Well,
hate
because
pogues.
of shit like that. Again, they're obviously not all bad, but because you have motherfuckers like that. And so I had to call back a second time. And finally they get over there, but it gets much worse. So in this time, more Afghans have come, more of the A&A guys, the Afghan soldiers. And it was just an A&A dude who just did what he did. So we had no clue. And so ultimately I actually grabbed homeboy's rifle, the dude that fucking was now dead on the ground. I grabbed his that he was just shooting with us at, and I was drawing down on him because all I had was my fucking pistol. And so we basically, what I say, and again, I'm sure some people won't be happy about this, but we got into a straight up Mexican standoff, man. It was like us screaming at them. They obviously don't speak English, them screaming back at us. And so in the midst of this, these motherfuckers come up, this other unit, and they won't come forward. I'm screaming, we have Americans down, get the fuck over here. And they won't come forward. And so finally, me and Brad have to make the decision, like, we got to go over there. And so we just say, okay, well, hopefully these motherfuckers are good. And we just run right through them. And I had to physically grab the medic and drag him over and fucking get him to work on those guys. Now, ultimately, unfortunately, they were all dead. But he didn't know that, man. Yeah. They could have been bleeding out there, and he could have saved their fucking lives. And so that was. So the point of telling that, though, is I always like, when I tell this story, I always like to give Brad the utmost amount of fucking credit, because that motherfucker was shot in the chest this whole fucking time, ran over there with me, and didn't finally. And at one point I'm screaming at him to go get fucking medic kit, because I'm trying to work on Walt, because my brain's not letting me realize that he's dead. Yeah. And so I'm trying to work on him, and and I'm yelling at him, and fucking then, like, again, we get back, and he finally is like, hey, bro, I'm starting to feel a little woozy, man. You mind if I sit down? And the medic goes over and opens up his fucking shirt, and he's fucking shot right in the chest. And not only did he get shot in the chest, but because, he hits a 5.56 round, what makes them so devastating, because they are such a little round, but what makes them so devastating is as soon as they hit the body, they tumble. Yeah. So ultimately, it went into his chest and then just destroyed his intestines and landed in, like, his hip. That was actually the thing that almost
it'll, like,
ended
deflect
up
off a bone and go all over the place. They're nasty.
And that was the thing that ultimately almost killed him, is the sepsis from when he got to the hospital. But again, I just got to give this guy so much credit, because not only did that happen, the unit that helped him and took care of him were a bunch of fucking whodunit and don't do it again motherfuckers, just soup sandwich. Yeah. And they didn't even know where the fucking the hospital was on the base. Oof. He had to tell them where to go. And because now, to give them a little bit of credit, even though they had to, how do you not have a plan to where if something happens? Their base was on the Afghan base, so they weren't on that base much. But you're telling me that if someone does, you don't have a plan to get someone to the hospital? Yeah. Anyway, so he actually has to tell them where to go, and then that motherfucker walks into the fucking hospital until he finally fucking collapses in a wheelchair and ultimately ended up living. But that motherfucker is one of the baddest dudes on the planet, man. Yeah. He's a fucking tough son of a bitch.
So let me ask you guys this. We're getting kind of towards the end, and I wanted to finish with this question, because I kind of think that I always think of, like, okay, if someone shared this podcast, who would they share it to? And I think a lot of people, there could be a lot of guys that served that go, man, there was a guy in my unit, there's a guy I was friends with who really should do jiu-jitsu. And I really think that it would be helpful for them. And so maybe sharing this podcast could be a way that they could extend that olive branch. But if you got to just say whatever to that guy who served, that is struggling with some of the things you guys have talked about, dealing with some of those things, what advice would you give those guys?
To get into jiu-jitsu?
Well, just if there was a guy that didn't do jiu-jitsu, what would be your advice that you would give him that was struggling with that?
All right, a couple of things. Number one, stop drinking if you're drinking. Stop doing drugs if you're doing drugs. All right, because those are depressants and they fuck you up even more. And they're just a coping mechanism for the real problem, which is if you have PTSD or whatnot. Exercise. You got to exercise. The best way to relieve stress, they tell us about this in the Army all the time, right? Physical fitness. You have to train. You have to work out. Like, get those endorphins released. That's a good way of doing it. A lot of guys that were in the time they were there, they're older too, and they worry about that's. I think a lot of big factor for those guys is like, man, I might be too old for it. You're not. Like, I say, get into jiu-jitsu, stop drinking, stop doing the drugs, or minimize it as much as you can, because it's only going to fuck you up long term, and you're self-medicating. It's not good for you, and then like, start working out again. Get back into shape. You were a warrior before. So it's like, hey, man, get back in that fucking shape, because it's going to really help your mental status. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, no, I agree. Specifically, my thing that I tell anybody, especially combat veterans, I'll say this stuff to anybody because I think everyone could use jiu-jitsu in their lives, but specifically combat veterans, man, that is the number one thing that I will tell everybody because I know personally how much it fucking saved me. You will, and again, I know people think that that's corny, but it truly did. And you will never, we've already touched on it before, the camaraderie that you get, which is such a huge aspect. And you have that world where you might have a bunch of people that don't have shit in common outside of jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu is that one thing that brings you all together. So you have a bunch of friends that you might not otherwise fucking have. Mm-hmm. And so that's that. And then again, that struggle, man. I mean, one of the biggest things that I tell people is going from that where you're getting fucking smashed on and you just tried hard to fucking for a sweep or a pass and you're fucking exhausted and now that motherfucker is just crushing your soul. Getting into that and being a new white belt and fucking having that true fight or flight, go through your mind. You don't get that anywhere else other than actual combat, man. Right. Like I say this all the time that like, in my opinion, nothing in this world has given me that true fight or flight like combat has other than jiu-jitsu. And so to go from that to then becoming comfortable in those fucking situations and accomplishing building yourself into an even tougher motherfucker is something that I think all of the people, all veterans, combat veterans specifically, that's something that is good for our souls, man. And so, yeah, man, I just think it's something that it's incredible.
One more thing, too, that I know you and I talked about this. A lot of these veterans get into their own mind, oh, woe is me, blah, blah, blah. I deserve this. Man, get that out of your fucking head. Grow a pair of balls and, do something about it.
That's right.
Nobody owes you shit. And I'm a combat vet. I'm still serving. I'm going to do 20 years. Nobody owes me shit. Nobody owes you shit, right, Dan?
That's right, at all.
So, get over that mindset. All these combat vets, especially fucking pogues who didn't ever leave the wire.
Yeah.
You don't deserve shit. Go out and earn it. That's all I got to say about that.
No, and that is a fact. And that is a problem with, I would say, our generation of veterans specifically get into a very woe is me. And the problem is it's not to say that we don't all have those fucking thoughts. Like how much have we talked about here in this podcast of that, you have that feeling of not being anybody anymore and having all that shit. But it's making the conscious choice to say, I'm not going to let that stop my motherfucking life. And I'm going to continue to live my fucking life. And I'm going to find purpose in whatever that would be. And again, and I know I annoy, but my wife laughs. If anybody asks me about jiu-jitsu, my wife instantly is like, oh, you're fucked, dude. He's going to talk to you for at least an hour and a half about how amazing it is. But I'm telling you, man, it gives you so many things that guys like us need. That sense of purpose, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of camaraderie. It's the greatest fucking thing on the planet, man.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing better than it. And, dude, it fucking sucks. And guys like us need something that fucking sucks. And it's hard, man. It's fucking great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, anything you guys want to say to finish?
Man, come join Revive.
Yeah,
BJJ.
Revive. Yeah. Revive's better than Headnot, man.
Oh, man. What a statement.
No.
Bryce, get the boys together. We gotta take a ride.
I got 2 words for you. Captain America.
Yeah, that's right. That's all we need.
Bryce, call the big boys. Call the big boys. If anyone who is an all-American wrestler, get him down here.
That's right.
Get him in a gi. I don't care what they're wearing. Just get him down here. Okay.
That's right.
Man, thank you guys for being on the show.
Yeah,
really
thank you
enjoyed
so much.
having you guys. We didn't even tell this part of the story. I kind of forgot until right now. Right before Dan hit that collar drag, Junior goes, hey, if you tell him dude, if you win first place, I'll let you be on my podcast. And he's like, he listens to every episode. I'm like, dude, I would have him on my podcast regardless. And June goes, no. Don't tell him that. He goes, don't tell him that. He goes, get over to him and say, hey, man, if you go win this match, I'll have you on my podcast.
That's a good motivation.
Fuck yeah, man.
So I definitely would love to have you guys back on at some point, maybe even with different combinations of people, some of our other buddies. I think it would be fun.
Hell yeah.
But thank you guys for being on the
Absolutely.
show.
Yeah,
thanks for
thank
having
you
us.
so much,
Yeah,
man. It was awesome.
And that is the episode. Thank you guys for listening to this one all the way through. I know that there are just some crazy stories in this episode and some really real stories and moments in this episode. And man, I just can't thank Nick and Dan enough for just being on the show and sharing the stuff that they shared. I know that insight that they shared will be valuable to so many people. And so kind of how I hinted towards the end of the episode, if this episode brings somebody up in your mind, if it makes you go, I have a friend who served and they are struggling and they don't do jiu-jitsu, and maybe they don't see the need, or they don't have the desire, or they are afraid to try it. Send them this episode. Let two people that they don't know that really have a very great view, let them try to convince them. And so if you are listening to this point and that's why you were sent this episode, if we didn't give you clear enough idea, that stuff starts to make sense. If you go, well, I do want that physical activity, I do want that camaraderie again, find a local jiu-jitsu school. They are everywhere. Jump on Google and search jiu-jitsu near me. And then no matter how many places pop up, I personally think it's best to try the free trial at all these places. And then you can say, hey, this is that group for me that I want camaraderie in. And sometimes you try 2 places, you're like, okay, these aren't great. You try the third, and maybe you have 7 more to go. But that third one, you know. And sometimes you just know. And that's great. If that happens, jump on, get a contract. If you don't make enough money, there are we talked about 2 of them on the episode. There is Rolling for Recovery, there is We Defy. There are all kinds of different nonprofits that are coming out now, realizing how helpful, especially for PTSD, jiu-jitsu has been for a lot of people. And so you can contact those people. There is a way that even if you don't make enough money, and even if you don't think that you could, there is probably a way that you could get into a jiu-jitsu school and really get some of the huge benefits from Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And so I think that that is just where I want to leave you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope that it helped you guys. Hope that maybe you connected with something in today's episode. If you did, always feel free to reach out to Nick or Dan. I'll make sure to tag them in the description. And then most importantly, I hope today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.